All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Epic Verse live stream. As you can see, we got a full house again tonight with Disbrew and Epic Mike and Bepic Ben.
All
Be
right.
Pick Ben.
And of course, we are joined by a very, very awesome guest tonight, Keri Smith. And how's it going, Keri? Welcome to the stream.
Good. I'm so happy I can be with you guys on a Saturday night. I'm usually not around. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, we're excited to have you here. You've actually been one that we've been talking about getting on for quite some time, and it's awesome that we could finally make that happen. So, and it's great. We have a lot to talk about tonight. We have a lot of stuff to talk about when it comes to Rings of Power and just kind of getting to know Keri a little bit better and hearing some of her story and Hollywood, all sorts of great stuff to talk about tonight. So I'm excited to be jumping into all of that good stuff with all of you guys. But Disbrew, the man himself, how's it going?
Oh, it's going great for me. Yesterday, got my first video to over 100K on its own without a shout out.
Oh,
And it's on track to being my biggest ever, so
that's
so great
awesome.
for me. Also, with Rings of Power, for some reason, they've now got me buying magazines again. I haven't done that since about 12, maybe? Wow. So, I don't know why we can't get this in digital form, but yeah, you've got to go where the trash is, and sometimes it's using traditional media.
Wow, that's crazy. I got to get my hands on one of those Empire magazines for sure as well. So.
Yeah, I made sure to get the one with Lenny Henry on the front, for maximum cringe.
Yes.
See, I didn't buy Rings of Power magazines. I just bought a magazine that actually matters, and that's the story of Jurassic Park. So,
wow. So not only did you buy a magazine, which nobody does, you bought a magazine about something that nobody's talking about right now.
I don't know.
Hey, I talked about it.
I live and breathe dinosaurs, so it's important to me.
You live and breathe dinosaurs.
All Ben does is talk about dinosaurs.
That's literally his whole existence.
I've literally never heard Ben talk about anything else other than dinosaurs in his entire life.
Randomly bring up a megalodon.
Yeah,
I do love sharks.
Megatherium.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
That's awesome, Disbrew. That's really cool to hear that you got a video over that 100K threshold. That is fantastic.
We're just waiting for him to be like, guys, I don't know why I'm here.
Disbrew is going to be bigger than all of us one day, and then
I am way too popular for you guys. I gotta go.
Drunk started that in his stream earlier. He's like, soon he won't come around this stream. Yeah, he's like, no, I'll be too small for him when he overtakes me.
That's great, man. I'm so happy for you.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And of course we have the man, the myth, the legend, Epic Mike. How's it going, Mike?
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad to be here. This is a far cry from I was on a show earlier full of a bunch of Australians saying very offensive things at very loud volumes and absolutely 100% trying to get YouTube to cancel their streams. I think currently their record stands at 15 streams pulled from YouTube.
Gosh,
I was like, maybe I made a mistake coming here, but it was a good time. So
they got their own thing going over there, and good for them. So
shout out to Lethal Lightning. We love them. And dude, listen, once again, I am so happy for Disbrew. He's been awesome. And I love that Keri's here. We've been talking for a hot minute about you, Keri, and
cool.
I know we're gonna get into it later, but that video that you did for Georgetown was like, I was like, oh my gosh, dude, I loved it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I like what you sent me about it. Yeah. I was nervous. I'll talk about it later.
We'll get into all of that for sure. I just want to give a shout out to someone who is in the chat right now, X-Ray Girl.
You didn't say it right,
girl.
X-Ray Girl.
What's up, X-Ray Girl? Good to have you here. And of course, I want to also give a shout out to our mod, Cooking with Ruthie as well. Ruthie is awesome. She's always on top of everything when it comes to the chat. So appreciate you, Ruthie. And once again, just a reminder, if you guys ever want to interrupt the Ben, get him to stop talking, send those super chats. So, with that being said, Ben, how's it going? How's it going?
It's going good.
Epic Ben?
Epic. Yeah.
How's it going?
It's going good. It's going good. I'm just chilling, hanging out, vibing, as I do every day.
You saw Jurassic World yesterday, right? or 2
I
days
saw
ago?
Thursday. Yeah, I saw Thursday.
Okay,
yeah.
So, what did you think? What do you think of Jurassic World?
I mean, I loved it, but that doesn't mean that I don't have problems with it. I just had a blast watching it, and I watched it like twice in a row. So I have a problem.
Nice.
Well,
I love the Jurassic movies, and I also I love all the Jurassic World movies too. So I've always loved them. Ever since I was
How
a
many
kid.
times did you end up seeing Doctor Strange in the end?
I saw
too?
Doctor Strange 4 times.
Wow.
And that's the funny thing too, is like it's not even like it doesn't even crack like anywhere near favorite movies of this year, but for some reason it's the one I've seen the most, and it doesn't make any sense, but I did. I had multiple people be like, hey, do you want to go see Doctor Strange? And I was like, sure. And I have the subscription to my movie theater, like to my theater, so I pay like $20 a month that I can see 3 movies every week. So like I'm not spending a ton of money to go see it. So I was like, sure, why not? You know, just might as well.
Why not?
And now I have my thoughts on that movie are very solidified now. I can say that.
For Doctor Strange?
Yeah.
That you think is amazing?
No.
That you
it's
hate
really
it?
not. It's really not that good.
Remember when I said that after one showing, and you were like, "Mike, no, you don't know what you're talking about."
But like I said, there are still moments in that movie that I like. So I can say is that Jurassic World Dominion I liked way more than Doctor Strange.
Nice.
And that's not just because there's dinosaurs in it. It also has Jeff Goldblum. So you know, I like whenever that man's on screen. And also Top Gun Maverick was incredible and way better.
Oh yeah,
virtually everything that came out this year. So
there you go.
Yeah,
good opinion there, Ben. Good job.
I just like the implication that you might have gone to a Jurassic World film that didn't have dinosaurs in it. It's like it's not just because it didn't. It's like, hang on.
Yeah, I would go to.
I'd be really disappointed if it didn't.
I'd be a little sad, but I'd still probably go if it was interesting enough.
If it was about dodos.
Yeah, hey, dodos are fascinating creatures.
Yeah, they're like they've escaped, and it's just a bunch of dodos running.
Giant prehistoric chickens.
Yeah, there's not enough dodo love in the media, to be honest.
There's not.
So
dodos get the short.
I don't think there's ever been anyone in the entire world that has ever said this sentence. I don't think there's enough dodo love.
Well, Josiah's the first then, because you just said it.
Imagine being the first one to ever make a statement like that. That's impressive.
If you ever played Ark with me, you'd know that the dodo
would never do that.
So
Dodos,
well, you are gonna play Ark 2 with me. So that's what you promised me. So
I never made that promise.
So Sahil, thank you for the £2 super chat. Rewatched the prequels this week. My head hurts.
Wow.
Better to have a headache than for your head to explode rewatching the sequels. So
the prequels are a mixed bag.
How so?
It's
episode 1 is a boring political drama.
Didn't you put that as like your worst film out of the Star Wars?
Episode 2 is horrible. Episode 2 is
including the sequels.
Even including the sequels. Yes.
Okay, episode 2 is a very poorly written movie, and episode 3 is pretty terribly acted, except for
Revenge of the Sith is
But
masterpiece.
Episode 3 is the best of the prequels by far, easily. It's got the best. It's got some of the best fight scenes in all.
Phantom Menace as your lowest on the list of Star Wars movies.
Yeah.
So
it's okay. To be fair, Phantom Menace is about up there with the Rise of Skywalker.
What?
Yeah, they're both pretty bad.
What?
Keri doesn't realize that I have very controversial opinions about a lot.
Well,
of
you're gonna
I think as soon as you said you liked all the Jurassic Park movies, that's when I thought,
Yeah.
I have a soft spot.
10 minutes ago.
I have a soft spot for all of them, but I will say that Jurassic Park 3 is pretty bad.
Pretty bad.
Like pretty bad. But that doesn't keep me from having a soft spot for all the movies. So it's still pretty bad.
And of course we have Keri Smith with us as well. So before we get into some of the stuff with Keri, what would your ranking for Star Wars be? Just like the movies.
Oh gosh, now you're gonna see my ignorance. So my ranking would be The one where Princess Leia and Han Solo kiss the first time. Which one is that one?
Empire Strikes Back.
Okay, that's number one.
Goated. It's the best one. So.
Okay, good. I got it.
Yep. You know what? Just keep Ben. We're keeping Keri.
First off, that was my second favorite. So
panic on Ben's face when I said that. He's like, "Wait, what?"
I'm being replaced.
I didn't know that could happen.
I'm used to it.
Now, is that also the one with the Ewoks?
No, that's
Return
to the Jedi.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
that's my personal favorite.
That would be my second favorite, the Ewoks. And number 3 would probably be, actually, I have the Star Wars Holiday Special, a bootleg copy on DVD.
Oh, really?
The Arthur is pretty terrible, but it's so terrible that it's pretty funny. Yeah. Of course, I haven't watched it in the past few years since I've been sober. So it might have just been really good back then.
It's better to just leave it on the shelf and tell people you have it.
Yeah. I'm the other way around. Like, the more drunk I get, the more worse it probably is.
Oh, yeah.
Like, my review for the last episode of Kenobi was like 4 hours late because I was so drunk watching the show that there's no way I can film right now. So I had to
wait. And then as far as the new ones, I think I watched one of them and I forgot it. And then I watched the one with the girl and where they kind of have that scene at the end. This is all I really remember about it. I kind of found it boring. The end of it where she gets home and there's like this big celebration, but she doesn't have her love interest turned out to be a bad guy or whatever. And she gets home and then she has like a bot. What do you call that? That comes and greets her like a dog. So at the end of the day, it's like this girl, there's no, like movies used to have sort of, they would have the action, but they'd also have a storyline sometimes with like the love interest. And now it's sort of, no, you with me with my platonic friends and my dog is waiting for me at home. My bot, my droid, whatever he is.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That is one of the best descriptions I've ever heard of the Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah. That
is what it is. Yeah. The guy dies and she goes home and there's her dog and
her platonic friends. Yeah. And they do like a group hug.
That's a good way to summarize that movie, to be honest. So
okay, I could do Star Wars Dummy does reviews. That's what I could do.
Okay,
the one with the girl.
Yeah. I mean,
Star Wars. Let's see here. We have a $10 super chat from Jolly Roger. It's not much, but it's for the Epic verse.
Yo,
thank you. Thank you so much, Jolly Roger. Appreciate
just
that.
You being here is more than enough. Like, don't ever listen. $10 for some people is a lot of money.
Yes.
Thank you for the support. Yeah. Don't ever feel like you're not enough.
We appreciate every bit of support, whether it's commenting, leaving a like, sharing the stream, all that good stuff. We appreciate everything. So thank you so much. Appreciate that, Jolly Roger. Keri.
Yes.
Let's so Mike brought up a video that you made. Let's kind of dive into that a little bit. And
well, yeah, this is so my little town in Texas. Well, my church is located in Georgetown, Texas. It's about half an hour north of Austin. And Austin is kind of, our slogan used to be keep Georgetown normal, because the slogan for Austin is keep Austin weird. And so, but Austin's kind of bleeding into Georgetown, and we have some woke people who, a lot of them are coming in from Austin. They don't live here, and they're coming in and trying to stir stuff up every weekend, like a lot of BLM protesters and stuff. And anyway, recently in our town, the middle school, and Georgetown ISD worked in conjunction with the Arts and Culture Board, so this government board, to do a town mural where they had 10-year-olds to 13-year-olds painting. They painted the transgender flag, the pansexual flag, the non-binary flag, and sort of like there were 8 of these flags. And it's like, why is a government school having 10-year-olds paint these things? Do they even know what they mean? Do the 10-year-olds know what pansexual mean? Did their parents get informed they were painting these symbols that mean something? And did they give consent for you to have them do that? So my pastor and 2 mothers from my church spoke at the city council meeting about it. And then we got evicted right after that from our meeting place, because we used to meet in this place called the Palace Theater, and it was they have a lot of ties to the Arts and Culture Board, and so they evicted us, and then I ended up speaking at the next city council meeting about it. And as I was saying to Mike, I was really nervous because podcasting, I don't know if you guys are like this, but with podcasting, I don't get very nervous anymore because I feel like I'm hanging out and talking with you four people, and I can't see an audience, right? But public speaking, I still have nerves about it. So I've been doing more and more of it so I can get over that, and it's helping each time. But yeah, I like blacked out right before I went up there.
Yeah. I've had to do some public speaking too, and it's definitely it's a whole different beast than
public speaking is awful.
Yeah, than just going on a stream or something like that. So the energy is completely different. So
but I got through it. You know who I just interviewed? Alex Stein. He does city council meetings all the time.
Oh yeah, Alex Stein is awesome. Yeah,
and he said he doesn't have any nerves. He's like, oh no, he loves public speaking.
Right. So, yeah. Some people are definitely born for it. So yeah.
Well, that guy's got enough energy that he's just like bouncing off the walls at all times. So it's like he's just got to perform for somebody. It feels like.
Yes.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, that video caught my attention because I mean I've met you on Tuesday Night's Main Event and stuff, and just watching your streams, but just there's almost like a precedent, the line that is always like the last line like to be crossed is kids. And there's been a lot of talk about the state of education in America, and Rip has been a big proponent of get your kids out of them schools, and just a lot of things. And there's been a massive rise of homeschooling and stuff because the reality is there's an agenda in schools now to get kids inundated with an idea or a concept early enough, because that when they become older, that'll be just norm for them. And there's very few people I think that speak out because either they're not paying attention or they're scared to say something because they don't think that they can. And so just to see somebody standing up saying, hey, listen, like this is not cool. And not only that, but then to come into it educated enough to give a breakdown of this is why it's not okay, because that's the other problem too, is typically the person that does finally have enough courage to say something is like, I don't like that they did this.
Yep.
And everybody's like, cool, yeah, we can make fun of them and ignore them, instead of somebody saying, here is why this is bad, and here is why it's dangerous and sets a dangerous precedent for people, So it was just it was awesome.
Yeah. Well, they shouldn't be using 10-year-olds to do that. It's like, would you have should a government school have 10-year-olds all paint I don't know, the Christian flag? How about the KKK flag? How about the any symbol that means anything? You're having them paint symbology, and in this case specifically sexual symbology, which I think is inappropriate. But I think all of it's inappropriate. I don't think they should be painting the Islamic flag or the there's no flag that you should have 10-year-olds painting as part of a required course, other than if it's a government school. Okay, our government's flag, sure. Our state flag, sure. But
Right. Well, I mean, and that kind of shows where, the government education system is heading with, basically them telling kids what they should paint instead of just allowing kids to paint what they want to paint. You know what I mean? And that's kind of just showing what the whole problem is right there. So
yeah. Plus, one last thing, they tried to lie at first. The Arts and Culture Board lady at the meeting, city council meeting, the first time it came up, she was at the mic answering questions, and she said, art's up for interpretation. And she tried to imply that all 8 of these very specific flags, just the colors just randomly ended up in those symbols. Like, that's not possible.
Yeah. Well, I remember you're like, and she tried to lie about it, but at least this lady had the courage to stand up and say it. What everybody was. So
there was another woman who later on in a different speech admitted they were LGBTQ flags and pansexual and all this stuff, but she completely avoided the issue of but why were middle schoolers painting it? She just sidestepped that. So
anyway. What's the education system like in England, Disbrew? Like What do you think?
I
about
imagine
it
it's pretty similar.
Yeah.
From what I can tell, it's all state run. The difference over here would mainly be around homeschooling, because over there, homeschooling just seems like you can just do it. Here, it's more official, and you will then get Ofsteded, which is like the government inspectors go around the schools to make sure you're teaching the curriculum and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And they have the power to close you down. So you would get inspected like you're an official school, and you have to live up to their standards and make sure you're teaching everything else. Whereas from what I've gathered of the curriculum over there, if you homeschool, you can kind of do whatever you want.
It depends on the state, but yeah, it definitely is a lot more like that over here for sure.
Yeah, in a lot of states for sure. I know in Michigan at least, we were able to kind of teach whatever curriculum, or homeschoolers are able to teach kind of whatever curriculum they choose. So it's really just up to them. I think there's a lot of homeschool curriculums out there, and pretty much all of them are on the table.
Yeah. So here though, but you'd have like book lists and stuff, as far as I'm aware, that would have to be taught. And so if something got on there, even if you're homeschooling, you're gonna have to teach it.
It's still basically controlled by the state. Even
so regardless, there's not much
Right.
of a difference, except for you're just not going to the public schools.
Yeah,
But
you could present it a different way. And
Sure.
what they've essentially done is very similar to like firearms and stuff. Although technically you can do it, it's so difficult to do it, no one bothers.
Right.
And which is something I think people don't realize is you don't actually have to outright ban something. You can just make it difficult, and 99% of people won't do it anyway.
That's exactly what they're trying to do here in the U.S. right now. I mean, that's all that they're doing. They're like, oh well, we're not gonna just ban firearms. We'll just make it pretty much impossible for you to get one. So that's exactly what they're doing.
Wait till they target ammo. That's what they're when they realize they can just make it hard to get ammo.
Yes, exactly.
Well, they could just tax it. Just tax it massively and just outprice everybody. So,
Well, that's what they did. That's what they did over here with like diesel vehicles, because it's cheaper to produce vehicle than diesel than it is to produce gasoline. But diesel's way more expensive, because they were like, stop buying trucks, and everybody's like, we're gonna go out and buy so many trucks. Like they literally like stopped buying trucks, and then America broke a bunch of records for trucks. Because they were like, stop buying them, and then they're like, fine, we'll just tax your diesel. And then we broke more records for buying trucks.
Okay, I gotta tell you, I'm so excited. My husband and I just downgraded all our vehicles. So I've always driven trucks, but little trucks, like the little just two-door. Okay, so we just traded them in and got older ones. And for the first time, and I'm getting it on Monday, it's a 2010 Chevy, and it's so big I have to hold on to the steering wheel to pull myself up into it.
That's amazing. I love that. That's great.
I've seen trucks over there where they come with like a step that comes out when you open the door to get in it. And like, we couldn't even have anything like that. Americans come over here and they saw a video. It was like, I didn't realize the UK was like this. It's like, what do you mean? This road is only big enough for one car. And it was like, what happens if a car comes the other way? It's like, someone's got to go in the hedge. That's what happens. And people are like, no, I've got this big, massive truck that would be bigger than the road.
Yeah.
Well, this is also funny because I got this huge truck, right? And he traded his in and got a used Prius. So, and he's like 6'2", so he's like in this tiny little.
Oh, that's amazing! Wow, he like did opposite. He's like, you get the big truck and I get the Prius.
He went to the small car.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, I don't have a big truck at the moment, but I definitely want to get one someday for sure.
Yeah.
So just deck it out. Put
when the world goes to shit.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna be honest. This is just confession time. I drive a freaking minivan, but it's got automatic doors, and
I love minivans.
I have no complaints.
Yeah.
I'm like, the kids are like, "Hey, I got to get out," and I'm like, "Cool, I don't have to get out."
I have no problem if people just see me as like a soccer dad or something. I just don't care. I like minivans.
Yeah, well, that's the thing.
Awesome.
I had like,
so much
people shame you until it's time to move, and you like put down all your seats and like load up.
Yeah, like there's so much space, and then people are like, "Man, I'm glad you have this van." After all that time of them making fun of you for having the van.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
that's great. I love minivans.
Jay Schwalbach, thank you for the $59.76 super chat. Appreciate that so much. I have questions, Keri. Have you ever been to Humboldt, California?
I have. I used to represent a comedian named Margaret Cho, and she did a show there. And I know it's like the pot capital of California. And almost all the questions, because she did a Q&A after the show, and all the questions were about marijuana.
That's hilarious.
That sounds about right.
Classic.
That's awesome. And then Disbrew, are you and Drunk 3PO having an affair?
I was sharing this about
story
Drunk
behind
Stream
this,
earlier. I was in Junk Stream and he started going, he's going to kill my channel. He's come here, he's taking all my viewers. I'm not going to have any left. And then he played like this montage of just like him complaining about how his channel was dying. And then he started just for like the next 10 minutes saying, I love this brew. I love this brew. And someone in the chat went, you sound bitter. He went, no, I really love him. He's taking all my viewers. And he's like really playing it up.
Oh my gosh, that sounds about right. Wow.
And then he went, but I do have one thing. I don't care how much my channel grows or doesn't grow because I've got this. And then he played the clip of him hugging Gina Carano. And it was just like, I've made it. That's it. That's all I needed.
Yeah. He used to do that to me. I'd show up in his chat and he'd go, oh, Epic Mike's in the chat. And he just hit the button in the middle of talking. And it's just careless whisper and him hugging Gina Carano.
Yep.
Yeah, that came out as well. Because he's going to a premiere and everything, so, you know, he's got the trump card.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And then Epic, let's see. Epic, do you really teach anger management classes?
I wish I did, actually. That sounds like a great idea. Listen, I'm going to show you what not to do, and I'm going to show you what I do. And,
the thing not to do is don't play Mario Kart. That's
or play it to get it all out. Like one of my favorite lines from any movie is in anger management when he's explaining implosive and explosive anger. And he says like explosive is the guy yelling at the cashier for not taking his coupons. And then like implosive is the cashier that takes it every day and like doesn't say anything and then shoots everyone in the store. So like there's the idea that, just get it out whenever you can. It's fine. Yeah. One of my favorite lines when I used to teach people and train people at my old job was, don't do as I do as I say, because I'm going to break every rule that I just told you to follow. But if you want to keep your job, don't do it like I'm doing it. So.
That's pretty great.
Yeah.
Josiah, have you ever killed anyone? Well,
that it's taking you this long to answer the question is a little concerning.
I have never killed anyone, but I have been killed. So,
fair.
Yeah, there you go. And then, sorry, Ben, don't know you. Hail all.
Well, now you do, I guess.
Thank you, Jay Schwabach.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jay Schwabach. Appreciate you. Always appreciate you. And thank you so much. So yeah, you used to live in California, right, Keri? And
I did.
I
lived in LA for about 15 years.
Wow,
it's a long time.
And then you made the move to Texas. So kind of, I'm curious to kind of hear some of the story behind that and what motivated you to move and like what was LA like and all of that type of stuff.
Well, I worked in entertainment when I was there. So I worked in comedy. My business partner and I, we had a company called White Smith. Her last name was White. I was Smith.
Oh, okay. Yep.
But we represented comedians, and I did the comedians. She represented musicians. And so I worked with comedians like Margaret Cho, Debbie Kamau Bell, who's currently on the last show that I sold was the show that he's on CNN right now called United Shades of America, which is a super woke show.
Yep.
I was a very woke person for about 20 years. And almost all the comedians I worked with, almost all of them were very explicitly social justice. So I sold I sold woke shit. And I thought it was good. And some of it was really, I mean, here's the thing. I still think Kamau's funny. It's just that sometimes this ideology, it becomes so prominent in a person's life. It becomes their whole purpose. It becomes more important than being entertaining. And it becomes a thing they're pushing above comedy. Like if you look at SNL, I would say a lot of times the past few years, they push the narrative before they push laughter.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And so that was the kind of stuff I worked with. And I thought I was changing the world with laughter and helping to, push this belief system that I thought was good at the time.
Right.
And when I started leaving it, and I've told that whole story before about how like figuring out there's something wrong with this. Like, wait a minute, this isn't liberalism. Like, all of a sudden I'm being asked to support censorship, like violence against people who voted for Trump just because they voted for Trump, and now think that all of those people are Nazis, and that it's absurd things, right? It took it reaching that level of absurdity before I could start to realize that there's something about this that's not liberalism.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So,
right.
It's more extremism than anything else.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so once I started coming out of that, I couldn't continue doing what I was doing because it was all the comics I worked with were woke. I was in the middle of selling another woke comedy show when I started leaving that belief system behind. And my whole niche that I had created was working with social justice comedians. And so I just wanted to get out of that, and I wanted to get out of that culture. And I loved Texas.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool. Did you notice that there were any other like individuals that you were around that kind of were also feeling the same way when it came to woke ideology, or maybe it was something that you didn't really talk about because it was probably kind of difficult to talk.
Oh my gosh, yes.
That, but...
You know who you should talk to sometime, maybe? Do you ever see the YouTube channel Wisecrack? It has millions of subscribers.
Jared.
Okay. Yes, my friend Jared Bauer. So Jared and I worked together on something years ago when I was still in working in entertainment. And then after that, he launched Wisecrack, and he had Thug Notes and all these different series that were really popular. And then he's since talked about all this. I got to interview him once about it, and he has spoken about it. So I don't feel bad repeating some of it, but his writing staff became very woke at his own company. Wow. And after a while, like he ended up, the reason he's talking about it now is he and his partner finally sold the company. And now he's working in video games in Finland to try to get away from woke.
Wow.
He left LA and went to freaking Finland.
Wow.
He's like, let's see, how far can I get away from California that's feasible?
And he's so funny and so smart. And the fact that I felt like he was sort of hiding his real thoughts about things for a long time, or felt like he had to, and now he doesn't have to, and he's just all letting it all hang out.
Yep.
Jared's awesome. I remember when I found him cut through Thug Notes because I always thought that was like a genius concept.
Yeah.
And then I remember kind of watching the channel evolve into something, and there was always like this idea of like think about ideas and concepts, and then it kind of became like, let's just talk about pop culture, and let's kind of. And then all of a sudden, I remember when like Jared was like, "I'm out," and I was like, "Oh wow, he straight up left," and it's never been the same. Like, so it was cool to see him pop up on your channel because I was like, "Oh, I haven't heard from this guy in forever." But that's
He's got a channel here on YouTube where he does really interesting philosophy stuff and comedy stuff. Yeah, you should totally, because he'll tell all now. Yeah, he's told me all kinds of stuff about his last few years there.
That's really cool. Yeah, we'll definitely keep that in mind and see if we can get him on sometime. That'd be awesome.
Jared's awesome.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
Ryan's here.
Ryan.
Oh, hey, look at that. The man himself. What's up, Ryan?
Frickin' Ryan. Yeah, sorry I missed you last week, Ryan.
I've been always kind of curious about that, Keri. Just like if there were other people that were having kind of the same sentiments as you as far as just kind of waking up some of that stuff. Yeah.
So I'll tell you a couple more anecdotes. One, a friend of mine who's a VP at Sony. I won't say what department. Shit, that's probably too much already. Anyway, I get things wrong. It could be a different company.
Of course.
Yep.
Okay. This friend contacted me a year and a half or 2 years ago, and was really starting to see all this stuff because now that woke has gone really big, people start to wake up. Some people do because it's accelerating, right? And so this friend was like, I spent a few hours talking to this friend because they felt that if they could figure out how to write an essay and explain it to their coworkers why this stuff was bad, that they could help open people's eyes and help them understand. And this person's a very good writer. And spent a lot of time talking to them about it, and they thought they could do it without being canceled and without losing their very, very nice, well-paid job. And I sort of was like, I can help you write this if you want and give you advice. I just want you to know you probably will suffer consequences, like just so your eyes are open going into it. And as far as I know, they never wrote that letter because that fear, very real fear of losing your job, being socially ostracized, everyone losing your social circles, people calling you Nazi just because you're like, hey guys, let's calm down and use our head.
Yeah, right, right. Yeah, exactly.
It's a fundamental misunderstanding, though, of where it all comes from, because he's approaching it from the idea that these are good people, logical people, and if I just hit them with the right argument, they'll understand. It's like, no, the very idea and concept itself is what is anathema. And you get that way. The reason why it's got into everything is, the idea that the personal is political, so everything is a political idea. So even doing that, even saying something like that itself, making the argument, you're making a political attack on them. And if they've got this as sort of their own personal identity, you're not just attacking like political ideas, you're attacking them, which is why it's so aggressively responding to them. You're like, you get the whole thing of like, you're denying my identity and stuff, but this is their identity.
Yes.
It's personal to them.
Right.
And that's why you have people who are like, well, I don't really care about politics. But to them, they couldn't physically even have the idea of not caring about politics because it becomes them.
Right. And that's why on the flip side, they attack, the other side of the aisle as well, because, they turn it into a big personal thing.
They do, because they feel personally attacked.
Right. Yeah. That's a really good point, Disbrew. Yeah.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And it's funny that you mentioned that, Disbrew, because I had a conversation with somebody today and they work in the government, like at a job for like helping displaced people and like people that are like homeless and stuff like that. And they're in this program, and their job is to help facilitate, because they've been homeless and stuff. It's to like basically give perspective, because everybody that works at this company is wealthy. And so they're like, oh, well, let's do these programs to help people. And they're like, those don't help. So they, but anyways, this person would like point out like certain holidays or like, Black History Month or things like that for people that are like typically statistically at risk for being homeless and stuff. And when it became Pride Month, they were like, well, what are you going to talk about Pride Month? And they're like, no. They're like, well, why aren't you going to talk about Pride Month? And they're like, well, because your sexuality and like who you're, has very little impact on your actual like economic status. That's something that's part of it, but it's not actually that. Like, these are the statistics for who are at risk. And people got really upset because in their heads, it didn't matter. It was, why aren't you pushing everything? Because we thought you were just championing all causes, not specifically the one that your job actually entails. And so they were like, they like notice. And I was like, they don't care. It's, if you're not proselytizing the message all the time, then why are you even, what are you doing? You're against me if you're not for everything that I'm for. So like Disbrew said, it's they take it as a personal attack instead of just being like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. There's no logic to it. It's, oh, well, now I'm hurt. My feelings are hurt, even if it doesn't affect me in the least bit. So yeah.
Yeah,
it's interesting you use those words actually, because there's a video I've never forgot. I can't remember exact wording, but it's from Tom Cruise about Scientology, and he says, you've got to consider: are you doing enough? Are you doing it right now? Are you doing everything you can for this and pushing it as hard as you can? And like, you just basically said those exact words he did, and he's just talking about pushing a religion.
Well, I mean, and that's kind of the thing, is that wokeism is a religion in its own right, I totally believe that it is a humanist religion. I mean, if you look at just like the determining factors of what makes a religion, they have like, they have their own creeds where, they have all these different phrases like, all white people are inherently racist, or speech is violence, or silence is violence, depending on the day. Who knows? They have like all these woke truths, and you must atone for your sins of, for instance, like being white by putting like black squares in your profile pictures or hashtagging Black Lives Matter. So, they have like all these things that are totally things that are just commonplace in religions. So
yeah. I wanted to say something quick. I was looking it up to make sure I got it right, but Mike, if it were about economic advantage, they should actually have done a straight pride month, because lesbians on average make more money than straight women. And
yeah.
So if it were about an oppressed economic minority, come on now.
Yeah,
but to your but to your point, Josiah, there are so many analogies to it being a religion.
Yes.
The concept of sin. There's some differences, right? Like they don't have a concept of grace. It's a works-based faith, so you're always got to do the work. And they say that do the work. But there's no forgiveness.
Exactly.
Pretty much no religion necessarily besides, Christianity is pretty much the only grace-based religion, though.
Is it?
I think just where in terms of you don't have it's a lot of people don't believe Christianity because it's too easy. It seems like everything's too easy, and so I feel like works-based belief in general is pretty commonplace in our world in general. But
yeah, and that's what the woke religion is like as well. It's very works based.
Well, you have to appease different things and ideas and people and everything else to.
Well, one of the things that we've talked about, the worst parts of religion, like the idea that if you're not proselytizing, you're failing people. It's a scary thing, but to frame it to somebody that is religious and say, listen, in the same way that if you're not evangelizing, you're leading people down the wrong path, or you're making the world a worse place. And to say that's the same kind of belief is, if you're making art and you're not pushing the message in your art, if you're not telling people what they should believe in your art, you're making the world, you're not doing your job, or like this was saying, Tom Cruise being like, am I doing enough? Are you doing enough? Is your platform being used to make the world a better place? Or like I heard a producer one time say, about a very specific company whose spokesperson is a mouse, and gave one of their very high up, females, that he said that she was on a holy crusade to push the level of impact that she has as a woman in the world, that she's on a holy crusade to let the world know that look at what women can do, and that women should be in power and women should be powerful, and then to make an entire concept of power and connection to the world in Star Wars, and make it female, and say this is not only is the concept of women being strong a thing, now this entire concept of the Force is female inherently. So
it's proselytizing. See, when I was SJW, I was like that. Because they make you, it's like the Tom Cruise thing. Are you doing enough? And anytime you're constantly looking to make sure that you don't trip an invisible tripwire and say something that's now problematic that wasn't problematic yesterday. So you're constantly making sure you don't do that. But then you're also looking out at anybody else who's sinning, right? That you can call out, and you said spirit animal, that's racist now. And then you pile on that person. They're like the in Christianity now. I know there are some Christians who are like that. And I really just don't think that's not something I want to do. It's if that's what you want to do, great. But to call out other people and say, let me figure out how to say this without being okay. I've heard someone say before, scold someone in front of me, and because the person said OMG, right? And they're like, don't take the Lord's name in vain. And I'm, whoa, dude, shut up. That person, first of all, I don't think that cursing is what that verse means. But secondly, even if you do, and you think that's a sin, there's a way to have a conversation about that with that person if you want to, without telling them what to do and calling attention to them in front of everyone else, so that you feel better about yourself because you just caught them in something that you think is a sin. All of that. Woke is like that. Woke is
right.
Josiah, you did this. We're all going to pile on you now.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
It reminds me of that quote from Monty Python, no one expects the Spanish Inquisition. I think that was from The idea that like all of a sudden the door opens and it's like,
yeah, exactly.
The best thing about that though is that everyone expected the Spanish Inquisition. They sent you a letter, and it gave you like 4 months' notice that they were turning up. It was amazing.
Is that real?
No, literally they did. They gave everyone advance notice because so you could like prepare.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, kind of along the lines of what Keri was saying, and also what we were talking about earlier, is I think just in general, we need a lot more grace in the world in general, I think. And so that, like, you know, that's something that's so important.
Oh, wow.
Ben died. Gone.
He just like, wow.
I peaked. That's the best comment I'm ever going to make.
You know what it was?
I'm going home.
Yeah, the Inquisition got him. He didn't expect it.
You didn't get your letter.
Are you all right,
they
Ben?
came in to take me. Yeah, no, sorry. I just had to. My son was upset, and so I had to calm him down. Yeah, that was.
You had to yell at
him. No, he's a sweetheart.
Daddy's working.
But yeah, just in terms of what I was saying, I think that like we tend to, the minute someone disagrees or even thinks that we're doing something wrong, they tend to dogpile, kind of like you said, on anything, no matter what it is. And so I think that's been my biggest frustration with a lot of things, is it just feels like people are so forceful about everything. And that's the frustrating thing to me, is it's like, I don't believe that. I don't believe there's a place for that anywhere, because I think like as a person who I'm very much a type of person who can talk to just about anybody. I like to relate to people. I like to talk to people. I like to know where they're coming from, why they believe what they believe, everything like that. But I also, like, if I disagree with someone, I'll tell them I disagree with them. But at the same point, I'm willing to have that conversation with them. And that's such an important thing. I think all of us lose track of, is that ability to converse with people without immediately saying, like, jumping down their throat and trying to make them believe something.
Yes.
That you believe.
Well, I think the problem doesn't really lie there necessarily when it comes to SJWs and everything else. I think that the problem lies with they try to force you to recompense for things that you do that they don't like. So, you know, they will try to cancel you, try to make you lose your job or your reputation, whatever else. Or, you know, in the case of like, just like a recent example that is just come to the top of my head is like Patton Oswalt, when he, you know, posted a picture of like him with Dave Chappelle, right?
Yes.
And, you know, everyone, like, all the wokesters completely lost their minds over there. Like, you have to delete this right now. What are you doing taking pictures with Dave Chappelle? And so he literally deleted that picture and then offered an apology for taking a picture with his friend, Dave Chappelle. So that is where I think where the problem actually lies with a lot of this, is that people are going to have different opinions, and we should all be willing to, you know, talk about that. And we should all be willing to have honest conversations about the different beliefs that we have, but that's not what they want. They don't want to have conversations. They don't want to exchange opinions. They want to silence you.
And that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that there's such a lack of that desire to have that connection with another person and have that conversation. That's the biggest pitfall there, is there's just no willingness to do that. And so if you lose that willingness to do, like, that's such an important part of what makes us like interact as people, is that ability to talk to each other and like to really relate to each other and understand each other. And I feel like we've lost that entirely, because people are so adamant about, like, I don't know, calling you out on your BS or whatever it is, you know, whatever they have a problem with. Like for example, you know, like with the example of taking a picture with Dave Chappelle, it's like, if you have I have friends that I disagree with all the time. Like, that's part of life, is that you, Mike, exactly.
I wouldn't use friends. That's a really
but like, exactly like that. So it's like, you know, I think even with all the stuff with Gina Carano that happened recently, and with anybody who has gone through similar situations, like, I've now personally met Gina. I think she's an absolutely wonderful human being, and I wish more people like could see past whatever problem they think is there and just kind of get to know a person for who they actually are. You know, not just maybe their internet persona or anything like that too. You know, I don't think the internet's helped that either. I don't think the internet's helped any of this.
Just Brew, I see you wanted to say something.
It's because he has a. You're looking at it as if you have a disagreement. They're seeing it as if you are evil. Your opinion is it's not an opposite opinion. You're actively harming the world and other people and literally killing people in their eyes. Yep. This is what they can't get past it. There is no getting past it. This is their belief. This is what they believe.
And I don't necessarily, I don't disagree with you. I'm more of coming from a point where I wish that people could see past that just innate hatred for other people, you know, but like, that's the problem is like, we're super broken individuals, like everybody. And so a lot of the time it's too hard for some people to see past that, even if realistically it's not. They can't see past. It's like they come up to a wall and then they just stop there. And like beyond that wall, there's nothing. And it's just that wall that they're hitting and just hitting against multiple times. So I don't know. It's all just frustrating in general.
The issue you've got though, is if you come at it from that perspective as if, oh no, we should just have a talk. It's like, well, okay, where does that lead? Well, it comes to the idea of you thinking that you've got to compromise in some way, which just means you're going to give them ground. And they will not move because they think you are evil. And you're not going to convince them. They're not going to change. Something that people can come to on their own way, but they're not. It's not going to happen through a logical conversation. And so you're just permanently going to move closer and closer to them. And so you come to a point where you're just like, well, okay, well, there is no conversation. There is no going back on this. It's just going to be someone's ideas are going to have to win.
I do think it's like that with some people, but not every person is like that.
Not everyone. I'll give you. So last night example, we had here in Austin, we had a panel. It's called Women Leaving the Left, and everyone on stage. We haven't all ended up in the same place. There's a Republican. There's someone's a former socialist. We don't even all have the same opinions on abortion. I mean, we disagree on things, but we've all left the extreme left, the social justice left.
I think you've all left
out of that, extremism. And out of everyone who came. There were a bunch of protesters outside screaming, calling us TERFs and transphobes and white supremacists and whatever. And they were banging on the windows during the whole panel. So we had to try and speak over them. But out of all those people outside protesting, at the end during the Q&A, we found out there was one person in the room who was woke. And she asked us a question and she was very respectful. She's like, I don't agree with anything that you guys have said, but I wanted to hear what you had to say. And I wanted to know why you don't have, someone like me up on the stage. And we're like, I said, well, first of all, round of applause for you for coming, because you're that one person who's a rare bird who actually wants to hear what we have to say. And it's really hard to find people like you in the extreme left who would even come on stage with us.
Yeah.
So my point being, there are some of them who are open-minded, and I think that girl, whoever she is, I'd love to know where she is in 2 or 3 years, because she might be on a panel where she walked away from the left too.
Yeah. Typically, I think the thing is, it typically what happens is it's somebody speaking up about something, and then you being approached by those people, instead of it being, I think the other part of it is typically one of the things, I mean, with debate and a conversation is, if I come at you and I start throwing out that you're a racist and everything, all I'm trying to do is put you on the defensive. And once I have you on the defensive, now you're giving ground anytime you concede an idea or a concept or anything like that. Whereas, if this person that you're talking about approached you and said, hey, I don't agree with you. I don't think this is right, but please explain to me why. I have friends, I've told Josiah about this. I have a couple really close friends that they've known me for a long time, and whenever certain things have happened and I've spoke out about it online or posted on it about Facebook or whatever, and they're like, I completely don't agree with you, but they came to me in private and said, hey, I don't understand, but I know you're a good person. But at the same time, for every one person there has been, I've also had people come at me and be like, you're a racist.
Yeah.
I'm a racist. Yeah. Right. You're a homophobe or whatever.
Yeah. And sometimes, I don't know. Sometimes it takes just that one person to listen and say, hey, I don't agree with you, but I'm going to sit here and listen to what you have to say. And I think sometimes even that one person can lead more people to be like that, if that makes sense.
No, because the reason why this has happened in the first place is because those people were never the leaders. then they won't lead other people, because the reason they went along with it in the first place is because they're at university, whatever, they heard the ideas and they went along with the majority of people, and that was the safe, comfortable route that everyone wanted. So they were easily swayed one way, and then something happened in their life which led them down another path. And then, but the people which are actually leading it, which are pushing it, the ones which are sort of organizing the things or dogpiling people on Twitter, they're not the ones that are going to be convinced. That with anything, you're going to have people which are leading the way in some force, and then just people which just want a comfortable life, and they don't really want to be bothered with it all. Those, whichever's the easiest and safest route, they'll go along.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and you can see that even a lot in like the political system as well here in the country. I've said for a very long time that most, like 98% of Republicans out there are just Democrats, just 10 years behind. It's kind of at the point where it's like more like 5 years behind, to be honest. But a lot of it is just because, Republicans, they don't want to stir the pot. They just want to, be the really nice politicians that are just doing their job. And, they don't want to put up any sort of fight, really. And I've dealt with a lot of like local politicians here as well, just in my area, who that's exactly their mentality. I've talked with them, and that's what they are like. They're like, I probably believe more with your line of thinking and everything, but I don't really want to stir the beehive or whatever. So and because of that, we just continue to give they just continue to give ground. They just continue to give ground and more ground.
Yeah. Well, and that's why, the other part of it is too, is that the best way to change people, and we've, taught, like, is with culture and with, whether it's storytelling, art, that's always been the biggest influence, because you seed like Disproof said earlier, you seed an idea in somebody's head, but they're the only ones that can take that idea and let it take root. Like you said, Keri, you were like, some of this doesn't seem right. Something's wrong. Nobody had to know. It wasn't anybody outside yelling at you like, "Hey, stop being woke." You're like, "Hey,
stop being woke. Don't take the Lord's name in vain."
Yeah,
stop
you're
being woke.
I'm gonna do it all the more now. Like, but then you're like, something doesn't sit right with me. I don't know. This is weird. And now you have an opportunity in yourself to cultivate an idea or a concept, and then that's what causes change versus, but that's why they do, the left and like woke and stuff. There's it's influenced culture so heavily. It's because they knew if we could infiltrate culture, we can infiltrate art, and we can infiltrate media, then we can like disseminate this information first, like quietly and subtly, and now very openly and blatantly. So
yeah, and you get that with. One of the first things that needs to go is the whole "we will get you fired" kind of level of fear, which goes everywhere. And that one of the reasons with that is culture. There was a culture that this was acceptable to do, that you should dogpile people, that you should go to their bosses and everything else. And if you get rid of that, then more people start to speak out. Because again, they're just doing it for an easy life. So whether they disagree or not, it's kind of irrelevant because they're going to go along with it anyway. But if you can get rid of that and start making it so that there are different ideas out there and they're competing, then people will go to the ones that they prefer. And as the ideas spread and the thing become more common, more people will go along with them. And so I don't even think it's about sort of individual conversations with people. If you can change the culture, then I think people will like spread out from various different places of whatever their tolerance is to go along with the kind of the safe ideas.
That's why I think shows like this, I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. I think this is like the most important thing that's going on right now, like fun culture, pop culture shows online, because this is what people are watching instead of CNN Plus. You know why they're watching it? Because they're hungry for something authentic and something different and something that's not BS and some Marxist narrative being fed to them. And I do think culture is what changes. That old Andrew Breitbart quote about politics is downstream from culture. Somebody asked me in the Q&A last night, they were like, well, how does leaving the left, what do you think, what do you hope to achieve politically? And I said, well, actually, none of my transformation was it had political consequences, my transformation did, but the transformation itself was a behavior and a belief system transformation, and if everybody has that kind of like, that's where I think the change is going to happen. Beliefs, culture, spirituality, maybe, but like these kind of things that changes, then the politics will change. I don't care so much about the national elections, really. I don't really follow. I think the school board stuff and the city council stuff's really important, but I don't really care about who's running for what freaking senator. I don't care anymore. I used to care a lot.
But, yeah. I mean, I totally agree. You know, culture is definitely where the heartbeat of everything is, and you know, that's where the change needs to happen. So,
and when I meet people out in the world who've seen, like, they're like, "Oh, are you Keri? I saw you in Friday Tights." I'm like, "What?"
Yeah,
that's the culture changing, right?
Yep.
Well, that's the thing, you know. But they're gonna make it seem like it's small, but it's not. I mean, you know, I'm using Disparate a lot as an example, but like he blew up because he was like, "Hey, this show sucks," and everybody was like, but everybody else was like, "No, this show doesn't suck because we like the access." And like the Wheel of Time shit, like that was the thing. Like, if people are like, "Oh my god, this guy says it sucks," and I don't like it. He's right. I don't have to like, because the idea is, you know, they watch the show, you know, I don't really like this bothers me, but everybody's telling me it's good, so it must be me. I must be not seeing it right, or I must not be understanding something about it. And then to hear somebody say, first of all, with a very alluring British accent, this show is garbage, and they're like, "Oh, well, okay." And then they watch his next video and he's like, "Here's why the show is garbage. I'm telling you with facts, like, this is why the show sucks." Now you have a platform to say, or now somebody's speaking to you what you're already feeling inside, and so now you're having a voice for something that maybe you didn't know how to articulate. And that's the thing, sometimes people don't know how to articulate what they're feeling inside. They just know that something doesn't seem right. And that's why, like, you know, like I said with you earlier, Keri, you know, speaking up for children because they don't know any better. Yeah. They're literally extremely easily influenced, and they're in a position where their teacher is the authority in their life when they're not at home. So all they know is, I'll do what I'm being told here because that's probably the right thing to do. Because in schools, the kid that is rocking the boat is not the one that's considered the good kid. Like, I used to constantly be like, "Well, why am I doing this? Or why do I do this?" And they're like, "Because it's rules.
Don't ask questions."
We've always been taught to follow authority, no matter what that is. So, I mean, with kids in school, it's going to be the same with their teachers as if they were at home with their parents. I mean, that's basically their parents at school or whatever is their teachers, the principal, whatever. So that's just, I mean, it all comes down to not questioning authority. And I think that we've always done that. Whether or not we were just like programmed to do so or whatever, I don't know. But it's more of just like, I feel like that's something we've always done is not question.
It's a biological instinct. So that's why you got the imprinting age, because you know, all the kids that didn't listen to their parents put their hands in fire when they were told not to, or jumped off cliffs and died. So it was a biological instinct, but you're meant to grow out of it and think for yourself.
And there is a kind of a difference. I mean, I guess I can't really speak for, you know, all parents out there, but for me, like, you know, when it comes to like my daughter and, you know, my son when he's older as well, I always tell my daughter, you know, if you have questions for why things are the way they are, you can ask me. Like, if I tell you don't do something, you can ask me why, and I can give you an explanation for why.
Yeah,
that's a good thing to do.
Yeah, there's reasons for why I tell you don't put your hand in the fire, you know, and I can explain why. But, you know, that's not what the government wants. They don't want you to be asking even why. They don't want you to be asking, you know, questions at all. So there's a huge difference between that.
Go ahead, Keri. Were you gonna say something?
That's a great point, because that's how you don't raise your kid to respond to authoritarianism well. Because you're like, asking questions is cool.
I was going to use this story because I like, it's not popular, but I think it's a funny story because it's me. Like one time, like at my school, my daughter came home and she was like, "Hey, this boy at school hit me," and I was like, "Oh, well, what did you tell the teacher?" And she's like, "Yeah, blah blah." So, you know, I was like, "Okay, well, you know, obviously I'm not trying to rock the boat here, but like, if that happens again, make sure you tell your teacher, make sure you go to the property authorities. He hit me again, like the next day he came home, he hit me. I said, okay, so here's the thing, and this is what we're going to do. If he hits you, you tell the teacher, and if the teacher doesn't do anything about it, let the teacher know. If he touches me again, I'm going to hit him in the face as hard as I can. And she goes, really? And I was like, yeah, because at that point, if the authority, the person that's over you is not protecting you from something that shouldn't be happening to you, well, like, dad is your ultimate authority. When you, like, I don't give a crap what the teacher says, like, hit him in the face as hard as you possibly can if he puts his hands on you again. And so the next day, the kid hit her, and she went to the teacher and she said, hey, he hit me, and if he does it again, I'm going to hit him in the face as hard as I can. And then I get a conversation with the principal, and I said, I don't, and they're like, well, you can't hit other kids. And I said, well, I told her she could. And it doesn't matter what you say to me, because I'll show up and I'll hit you in the face too. But like, it's and it was funny, but at the same time, the idea was, if the concept is don't rock the boat, and yet you're in a situation where you could be being harmed. Sometimes it's sometimes physically, but sometimes it's even mentally. You're being told, follow the narrative, follow the ideas, follow a concept that isn't helpful to you, or is dangerous to you, or dangerous for society. And if you are not willing to stand up for yourself, that somebody needs to come along and be able to tell you, you are allowed to stand up for yourself. It is okay to not be abused or not be manipulated or tricked. We talked about it a lot. I mean, it seems like a small thing, but like a company telling you something is good that is poor quality is dangerous, because they're telling you, lower your standards, stop expecting good stuff, and just consume whatever we're giving you. And don't worry about it, because when you're gone and dead, we'll have your kids to do it too. And when they're gone, we'll have their kids to do it too. Instead of it being, hey, if something isn't good, you should be able to say it's not, and have a conversation about why it's not, and talk about it. And so that's part of the reason it's important to be able to speak out like that. And it's important to be able to talk about and critically look at things and why things aren't good, or why things are, the way that they are. So
yeah, I mean, I would say, I'm sorry, Disper.
Just one of the things that you said there, because I always felt when I was going through the school system, behind me, like a couple of years, was a wave of change. Everything got restructured and redone by the government just behind me. And one of the things that changed was the old really heavy focus on anti-bullying. Don't do this. If anything's in trouble, go to the teacher. Don't sort it out yourself, because I would have been just told smack him. But they're told, no, the teacher will sort it out. And everything went that through. Everything followed through, and then it's the university. You got an issue with someone. If someone's saying something you don't like, go to the university. They'll sort it out. And then when you leave that, everything's go to an authority figure. They will sort it out for you. So what do you get when you leave the school system? Well, now the state is the biggest authority. That's what's got to sort out all your problems. Don't defend yourself. The police will do it for you. We've over here, you can't defend yourself. You'll end up in prison. So the police will do it. Well, okay, that'll be useful in about 10 hours when they arrive. But you very quickly find that what happens in school goes on into later in life.
Yes,
100%.
Absolutely.
Yep, 100%. and then what happens is something we've also talked about, like Disper has brought this up, the shame idea of like society, the shame in society was an effective tactic to stop people from being stupid. But then if the immediate response when you feel like you're being attacked is to run to the government and say, hey, I don't like the way I'm being talked to about this, then the natural response then will be, let's pass legislation to stop people from shaming other people. And now there's no now when somebody is acting stupid, there's no the government is the one that decides whether or not it's okay for them to act like that. And then now there's no precedent. So somebody says, well, I don't like that this person didn't use my pronouns. So now I'm going to go and legislate the fact that you have to use my pronouns, and you could potentially be in a situation where if you didn't use the right pronouns and you didn't even know, you could be prosecuted, because now they have the power to say, I feel attacked, and you don't get to decide whether or not it was an attack, So
yeah, absolutely.
There are tweets that I can like. They're not controversial tweets. There are tweets that I can like or tweets that I can retweet, which will end up with the police phoning me,
that happens in
my
the
boss.
UK.
Yeah. And coming to the door. There was a guy who retweeted a poem, and the police came to his door and said, we're here to check your thinking. So
jeez,
what?
That's insane.
Yeah,
That's
literally
okay,
the
man.
words they used. Yep.
Why are you still there?
Don't worry,
it's not all easy to just move.
It's not easy to relocate.
I know. I'm sorry.
It's a work in progress.
If people wonder why I'm like, no, London isn't part of Britain and stuff, it's because that's where all these ideas are coming from. That's the center of power for the entire nation.
Well, and
if you want to see the future, if you let these ideas just propagate, it's us. And if you want to see our future, it's Canada.
Yeah,
Canada's the worst version of us, but we're going that way. And it's not like there's any other option. Both sides of the government agree the same thing. So what are you going to do?
Yeah. And that's
scary, man.
And that's exactly it. And you know, it just sets a precedent, and it shows like the whole concept of words and sticks and stones may break my bones and blah 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 blah. But that was always like an anti-bullying thing, and it was like it's less that, and it's more the fact that like letting people letting one side run their mouth without being checked is wrong. Like, and the fact, so
there's a reason why, freedom of speech is the First Amendment. There's a reason why that is the very first thing that the founding fathers put there in the Constitution. And there's also a reason why, the Second Amendment is there as well. But, there's that's to protect the First Amendment. So, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So,
if I need to get out at speed, I'm just going to like Romania or somewhere. Like all of Eastern Europe is just based.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
But that's awesome. Yeah.
I want to share one anecdote with you really quick from last night. This one of the ladies on the panel, she was on this call with teachers here in Texas, and it was a call with educators who teach kindergarten through 5th grade. And they were complaining. This one teacher was complaining about how she was explaining how she's in a polyamorous relationship. So she has a husband, and then she has a girlfriend, and her husband has a girlfriend, and then they also date other people and whatever. And she was saying that it is she feels personally bullied and harassed because she's not allowed to share her full self with her students and talk about like her relationship and what she did on the weekend with her inner polyamorous with her kindergartners through fifth graders.
Why do you need to share that with your
exactly
little kids?
Why do you need validation from these kids?
They're children.
It's just
if you have the idea that everyone is equal, then all bonds are broken. Children are no different than adults, and that's the path you go down.
Right.
Yeah.
But we were kind of joking because she said that the woman said the school had just told them that they couldn't put any symbols on their desk, but she was like, I'm going to keep this rainbow flag on my desk until they say something, and or some flag for whatever her sexuality was. And I was just laughing, like, what if her full self, that she needed validation for, was like a diaper fetish? Would it be just like, I'm going to keep my diaper like right here?
Yeah, I'm going to wear my diaper.
like how far do you take it? Like they don't need to know.
Yeah, well, and that's exactly it. It's you. Whatever you do behind closed doors, like you don't need to know. And the thing is, growing up, unless we had in my middle school, we had 2 teachers that were married, and we all knew they were married. Like they literally had the same last name. But like the fact is, they didn't walk around talking about their personal lives, and I didn't know about my teachers' personal lives growing up, like and stuff. I mean, there's a thing even like in school, like go call one of your teachers by their first name and watch them be like, what, and stuff, but. Yeah, the fact that like the idea is, hey, I want to talk about it would be weird just to be like, hey, me and my husband went on a date last night to go see a movie. I'm like, kids don't care about none of that. Like none of that matters. Like, I mean, but
kids probably don't even want to be there. So
yeah,
they really don't care to hear about your personal.
The personal is political. So it was the idea isn't, oh, I want to share this because it's important to me. It's I want to share it so I can be validated because I know these kids are influenced by me, and I have some kind of level of power over them, and so they'll be normalized. It's totally normal to do this,
Right.
But because they know if they were running their mouth to a bunch of adults that didn't know them, they'd be like, I don't want to hear about this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But they get validation, like anyway.
Yeah.
One of my favorite TikToks recently was someone who was talking about a polyamorous relationship, and they put it on a board. I don't think they even realized what they'd done. they'd put names on a board, and then there was pins in them with string to each
I
one,
saw
and
this.
who was with each one. And it looked like a conspiracy theory, like tracking various different. Like if you walked in someone's house and they had that on the wall, you're like, okay, this
like,
guy's
what the
kind of
heck is
losing it
going
with like
on?
newspaper clippings and stuff. But they've been creating
Who got
to
murdered?
track it all.
It's all a conspiracy. I've been saying it.
Yeah. You've been right all along, Mike.
I've been right always
Mike's been trying to tell you.
Well, like that meme, like it's me saying it was a conspiracy all along, and then it's me standing behind you with a gun saying always was. Yeah. So
it's all simulation.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. You know, the other part of this too that I was talking to somebody about. You know, this isn't even like new for our country. I mean, this was, you know, in the 60s with the free love and everybody just doing their own thing. I mean, there was that concept being pushed of, you know, like, you know, validate my lifestyle and validate what I'm doing. And I don't like that, you know, I was repressed for my life and now, you know, we're free and we can do whatever we want and love who you want to love, man, and all this stuff, you know. So it's not even like we don't have reference for this in history. It's just that right now, I think for the first time, it's been it's inundated in culture, like it's constantly being talked about, but then it also infiltrated politics to a level that I don't think anybody ever expected it to.
You have pretty much, you know, every corporation, establishment, everything all pushing the same message as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. An interesting thing with things like the peace and free love of decades and stuff, just go back to one of your relatives that was around at the time and ask them, did you know anyone that was doing this? A lot of the time they're like, no, it wasn't in our area. It was like, there's a lot of messages that like broadcast of this was what it gives the impression that everything was like this. And you go and talk to people, it's like, actually, no, it may have been like goths, right? It's like saying that, you know, the 2000s, just everyone was a goth. It's like, no, but you may have known the odd person. But later on, I think decades can get a kind of false reputation for different
and that's
things.
fair. Yeah. I mean, the school I went to, everybody was goth.
Yeah,
but that was our freshman year, and I think I've told some people this story before. My freshman year in high school, like half of my freshman class was like goth or emo, and they were really into it. And there was like a lot of problems, and I remember the principal and the vice principal went to every single freshman class, and they literally said this right in front of us. I remember it to this day. They said, "You are the worst class in the history of this school." There was more expulsions and suspensions than any class ever. And they said, "We don't know what's going on. We don't even really know how to fix it. But you guys got to change something." They're like, "This is awful." And I'm kidding you not. Our class like was one of the best classes. And then they went back through and they said, we've never seen a turnaround like this. We don't even really know what happened. We just they were like, "Guys, knock it off." And everybody was like, "Oh, okay." You know, but like, and then all of a sudden it completely changed. But it was almost like, for a second there, like this ideology took a hold, and then it took like an adult being like, "Dude, just knock it the fuck off and grow up like a little bit." And we were like, "Oh, okay," you know, like we were like beating the seniors in Spirit Week and all kinds of crazy.
Work over here. I had one where he's like, "No, you've legitimately given us the lowest," because this was a guy who could pick his own class, so he picked the best people. And then he just I don't know what was happening with him, but he wasn't on his game, and it reflected on us. And he's like, "You have given me the lowest grades I've ever had," and we're all like, "It's quite impressive, actually, isn't it?" It's like, no, we're just proud of it, actually. It's like, you're all failures, like, yeah, just like we should be.
Yeah, that's pretty. Like, well, if you're gonna commend us for something,
You don't want to try and humiliate a Brit. It's like, actually, that's good. It's actually genuinely impressive we managed to be that bad.
Yeah, that's actually really funny.
I think that's why I like trash television. It's like I have a certain respect for them. It's like, you managed to make this and get that past all of your superiors, and then they spent $10 million an episode on this, and it still turned out trash. I'm kind of impressed. It's funny at that point.
Yeah. Well, that's about one of my favorite things about like when his Disper's responses. He gets mad when there's nothing happening. He's like, "I'd rather it be garbage and something happening." And like his reviews, he's like, "You didn't do anything. I don't even have anything to like because nothing happened."
Right. Right. Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
why Halo was the worst.
And we can kind of pivot to some of that type of stuff because that ties into the Rings of Power nonsense that's going on right now. We have tons of information that has come out this past week about some of that, and but before we do, I want to get caught up on some of these super chats here.
Yeah, we've got a lot.
Jolly Roger with a $10 super chat. Keri, how many famous liberal people are faking their beliefs in that ideology just to keep making tons of money? Because some of that ideology seems impossible to believe.
My opinion, a ton of them, most of them, because anytime a belief system becomes culturally dominant, you're going to have maybe a core, maybe 10%. If that, of true believers, and then the rest are people who are there because it is popular. Like, it doesn't matter if it's Christianity or anti-woke or woke or whatever the belief system is.
Which is interesting. It's funny because that I just saw something like that recently with Stranger Things. I saw like an interview, and what was it? David Harbour was like, they were asking about one of the kids and whether or not the kid was gay or not. And he's like, well, I think over time we'll find out whether or not he is. And then like the actor that plays the kid was like, it doesn't matter. That's not part of his story. I'd rather focus on the concept of like, he's a kid figuring his life out than focus on whether or not he is something or putting a label on something that he is. And I was like, that's actually a really based way to look at it. That sounds like an actual artist trying to like play out a character than a grown adult who should know better being like, well, I don't know, maybe he is, maybe he isn't, you know.
People do that all the time instead of just like telling the story that they want to tell, you know. You know, and it's a lot of the time it's not the person telling the story that's like, oh, I don't know, we'll find out. Like,
but I've heard you talk about that before too, Keri, that there's a pattern, and so that was the trendy thing, so everybody kind of jumped on board the train of like, well, this is trendy, we got to go with where the wind's blowing with this concept. So
this is why it matters who I think most people are sheep, and I don't mean that in an insulting way. I mean in most people follow, and there's a thing called the oh gosh, I'm blanking on the name now. Is it the Ashford? It's been a while since I've talked about it. It's these experiments they did to figure out how conformity works. And they found they would bring people in a room and they would draw on a sheet of paper a bunch of lines. And they would tell them to pick which one was longest. And like only 25%, if that, of people would pick the right one, because what they would do is they'd have 5 plants who would first pick the wrong one. And then 75% of the people would go along with the wrong line, even though it was obviously not the longest line. That's people conform. And so I just think it matters who the shepherds are. And it also matters that we root out the freaking wolves who are in shepherd's clothing.
Yeah, really.
Like my favorite conforming experiment is where there's a load of people sitting in a room, and all of them act except one person, and then someone starts putting smoke under the door. And they see the smoke and start looking around. No one responds to it. They tested it recently, and there's a whole thing where the camera can no longer see the people. There's that much smoke in the room.
And they're still
the guy's
sitting
still sitting there in the chair because the people will sit there and burn to death if everyone else just doesn't move.
Which is really funny, just as a side thing, because this is and this isn't just a culture thing, but this is something specifically growing up like in like around other Black people and stuff. If you see somebody running, it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if you see it, hear it, or anything. Everybody runs. And it used to be a prank sometimes that we would do where literally one of us would just take off running, and you could be at like a park and everybody would run with you because it didn't matter. The idea was if there's something you're running from, we probably all should get moving because we're not going to die here. Yeah. It was nobody sat there looking, going, why is that guy running? They're just like, oh shit, let's go. Like, yeah. So
and
it's just kind of funny.
Yeah. And the problem is that there are a lot of very bad, sinister people out there that know that's how human behavior is. And they totally use that to their advantage. There's, Yuri Bezmenov talked about this. Have you listened to his interview about that, Keri? Yeah. About useful idiots. He talks about that. And, how there's like the idea of like socialist communist ideology is like painted in a beautiful way to people to get them to be like, oh yeah, that's a great idea, and then suddenly everyone's like, oh well, if they're totally into it, then I should be into it too. So yeah.
I mean, I'm using a really simple example, something that I've found hilarious. I used to work for Chick-fil-A, which, I've gotten flack for in the past.
Delicious.
It is. And the person I will always support the people that I worked for because they're amazing. But it's so funny because we had 2 drive-through lanes, right? And one car would pull into one drive-through lane, and both drive-through lanes were open almost all the time. But there was always more people in one lane, and they would just keep piling into one lane, even when all the space is running out and the other lane's completely empty.
Oh yeah,
and I think that's just such a simple example of like humans just have this innate desire to follow. Like we have it's like Disper was saying earlier, it's like a biological programming almost, where we're just like we just have this this immediate need to follow along with something. And that, like I said, that's a simple example that has nothing to do with this, but it's even in stuff like that, you can see that.
Yeah. Well, it is an example because we here in Michigan specifically, we have a law called zipper traffic, where if there is traffic or like there's construction being done, the lanes eventually close to a 1-lane highway. You will see traffic backed up for miles in one lane, and there'll be an empty lane on the left because everybody goes, well, the traffic closes. But the law actually is you all travel in both lanes until you get to the one lane and merge over into one because it keeps traffic flowing. But what'll happen is, and I've had this happen, I've almost been in accidents before. I will take the left lane that's empty so I can move up through the lane and move through traffic. I've had people swerve into my lane to stop me so that I will get into the line that's not moving.
It's insane. Yeah.
But the concept, like Ben said, the idea is, well, everybody's over in this lane. Why aren't you in this lane? It doesn't make any sense to me.
It's not fair. Don't be an individual.
Yeah, I even had that happen one time with a cop. The cop was in the lane not moving, and everybody was looking at the cop as I'm going by them. They're like, why aren't you doing anything? The cop's like, it's the law, dude. I'm not.
Right.
There's so many examples. That's like an empty car park. You can have an empty car park with one car in it. The next person will come and sit next to that car because it's just like a herd instinct. Like, if someone wants to rob a car, then there's a 50-50 chance whether he'll choose mine. It's every time.
Something that frustrates me so much, and I don't know if it's the same for you guys, is when you go into an empty movie theater and like 2 other people come in and they sit like either right behind you, right in front of you, or right beside you. And it's like, I did not come to sit in this empty theater to have 2 people come sit right by me. Like I just.
This is like that urinal meme where the guy walks all the way across the empty.
Oh my gosh! Oh, okay. Hold on a second here.
There is a correct way to do that, and every man knows it without ever discussing it with another man.
Okay,
it's just,
like
this.
So funny.
I actually literally just watched this before the stream. We have to watch this because this is hilarious, and this is so true on so many levels. Let me see if I can find it here.
I love this stuff. I've actually lost like hours of my life watching videos about escalators because that's all about mass human behavior and everything.
Yeah.
People use escalators wrong.
I think it's fascinating.
Check this out. This is hilarious.
This is called the urinal test. This one's a no-brainer. I definitely go all the way to the right. You want to space yourself as much as you can. Here, I'd probably go to the same thing, because anything else and you're kind of too close to people, you definitely don't want those 2 in the middle, because then you're like stacked between people. This one's a no-brainer. You want to go directly in the middle. Otherwise, you're shoulder to shoulder with somebody. Weird. This is a lose-lose, honestly, all around. But I think you just have to take one of the edges. Wait. I don't think it matters too much.
Yeah, I would wait.
I think you go middle here, because if you go to the left, you're going to be next to 2 people on your left. Whereas if you're on the middle one, you only have 1 person directly to your right.
Is that something you guys have to actually think about? My all-male team is.
That is literally what guys do. Like
it's hilarious though, because it's so like the minute you walk in the bathroom, and I'm sure this is the same for you guys too. You immediately scan everything within like a 5-10 second period, and you know exactly what your next move is going to be as you're going in.
I think it's like instant. You just walk in, glance at it, and it's all. What I mean. It's the same way that women will look at another woman and she'll just go. And that's it. They'll have judged every single thing about them. Never do that with urinals. That's like our superpower.
It's so funny.
It's so funny.
I think like stuff like this we've talked about. We might have talked about it in our podcast. But I think that like this examining of like how human behavior works and like herd mentality and things like that is just so interesting. And it's crazy to think that there are people out there that genuinely don't believe that that's actually a thing. You know, I think that people, or at least maybe they don't
social
want
construct.
They don't want to think that it's a thing, but like we do really just have this innate desire to follow. And so I think when you realize that, a lot of the time that can change a lot of the way you think is just by like getting out of that that same motion.
Yeah. Ken Lipson with a $5 super chat. Keri is one of my 3 favorite modern philosophers. Ask her about speaking to the elephant. And I love all you guys. Thank you so much, Ken. Appreciate that a lot, man. You're awesome.
I love Ken. I would not call myself a philosopher. And speaking to the elephant is not. That's just something I read about that Jonathan Haidt wrote about. But he talks about how he wrote a book called The Righteous Mind: Why Good People Are Divided by Politics and Faith. And in it, he helped me to understand something better, because he said that our brain kind of works like a rider on an elephant, and your rider is your rational mind and the elephant's your emotional mind. And all of us like to think that we make all of our decisions with our rider, our rational mind, but we really make most of our decisions with our elephant. And then the rider just kind of comes along for that, along for it, and like rationalizes things post hoc, right? But on a gut level, we will make decisions a lot of the time. And anyway, he helped me understand, especially social justice people, their elephant is almost always in control. So if you want to change their mind on something, you don't talk to their rational mind. You try and like, using what he said to help me understand, okay, I have to connect with people emotionally if I want them to maybe consider what I'm saying.
That's something that I tend to do a lot. I guess that's something I would consider my strength, is being able to connect with people emotionally. But
are you a Libra?
Who likes to ride elephants?
I don't know. I've not delved into that a lot. But if you know anything about personality tests, like, do you know the Enneagram?
I do. Are you INFP?
Well, that's Myers-Briggs. I think I'm INFJ. No, I'm not J, because I'm not Justice. I think that's what J is.
Yeah.
But the Enneagram is like a 9-number scale. I'm the 9, which is the peacemaker. So if you ever want to read about it, it's a really, really fascinating personality.
I don't have to take it. I already know we would have the same score.
Yeah.
It's funny is me and Jen have the same score in the Enneagram. I'm actually considered a peacemaker. I just do it in a very different way.
But you're a wing. You're an 8 wing. I'm a 1 wing. So that's
I'm very aggressive in how I.
Yeah, 8s are very aggressive, and so Mike is like a 9 with an 8 wing. So your wing is like the number on either side of you. So it's really interesting if you ever want to look into it.
Yeah.
Well, shit. Now I'd have to take it.
Yeah.
It's very fascinating. Very fascinating.
The Enneagram thing is pretty interesting. So
this is like, I'm British. I don't know.
There's an interesting thing with psychology where you can very quickly stray into pseudo psychology, where it's like things can sound as if they're correct, but it's a lot of the kind of stuff I wouldn't know because I don't know what you're talking about. But a lot of the things can stray into like cold reading and stuff, where you can come up with paragraphs which apply to everybody, and everybody thinks of themselves that way, and so you could probably get any numbers on there and you'll think, actually no, that does apply to me, I am this and this. So I don't know, I'm always dubious of those kind of things, but
the nice thing is, the caveat on the Enneagram is they're like, do not use this as some psychology thing. It's just a concept of like, it's a self, because they don't even tell you like fill out a sheet and this is what you are. It's
you literally could just go to a website and read.
It's like a self-assessment of like, this will help you put words to something that you're thinking about or concepts, but it's not, it's like, do not use this as a replacement for like.
And something they do mention too is that every single person can find bits and pieces of each of these personality types, like as part of them. It's just, there's normally something that you connect to or you maybe relate to more than everything else, like pretty strongly. So it's more breaking down the people in general in like 9 different types. It's really interesting to at least read about, even if you're maybe not so sure on the idea.
I think the useful part of that is to give people like a tool to analyze and think about themselves, rather than treating it like a diagnosis. It's more just making you think about yourself.
People that live by like, well, I'm an INF.
Yes.
And you're like,
I would say Myers-Briggs is more like a diagnosis. The Enneagram is more of just like a self-help tool almost, to make you maybe help you understand a little bit more who you are in general. So I think that's maybe more useful.
I gotta say this real quick. Viper totally called me out and said Mike likes using stalls so nobody goes next to him in the urinal. 100%. Even if it's a handicap stall, I don't give a crap. I'll use the stall because I don't want anybody getting near me. I don't want to take the chance. I've had too many times where like some old guy that doesn't know has any decorum walks in and takes the stall right next to me.
Oh my gosh,
and then makes all the moans because his prostate's so enlarged he can't pee. And they're like, oh, and I'm like, you know what? I'll just use the stall. It's fun.
Like, that is the worst when you're the only one in the restroom and then someone comes in and stands right next to you.
Yeah, and
right
listen,
next to you.
I'm not knocking on old
awful.
people, but it's almost always like an old guy that just doesn't care.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, they're like in their 70s or something. Like they've seen this world too long. They're like, you know what? I don't care. I'm just using the bathroom.
That's why if you're the first one in there and they're all empty, you go to the one on the far end.
Yep.
Because that way, if anyone lazy comes in, they'll take the closest one and you'll be fine.
Yeah. You just gotta put your leg out and kick at them as they come near you.
It's so funny.
Men have essentially mastered game theory just in the bathroom.
Alex Slusher, thank you for the $1 super chat. Appreciate that, buddy.
And also, do that picture of him and Jeremy.
His profile
awesome.
picture is him and Jeremy.
Yeah. He's always been a huge supporter of Geeks and Gamers and my channel and everything else. So appreciate Alex a lot. I think he said that he's watching a movie right now. I don't remember what movie he said he was watching, but yeah.
That's awesome.
Pirate Tomsky, thank you for the 10-pound super chat. From a modern day feminist perspective, being strong is being male because they hate masculinity, so they want to own it. That's why they want all powerful women to be just like men. Very telling. Yes, very, very true. Thank you so much, Pirate. Appreciate that a lot. That is awesome. Pirate. Let's see here. Another super chat from Pirate Tomsky. Thank you so much. Continue. Why can't these people see the massive strength and femininity and all that brings to society? They're trying to destroy what made Western society great. Absolutely. 100% correct about all of that. So
that was one of the things that changed sort of when I went about school. There was like a wave behind me. I saw that coming through as well. There was a deliberate like cultural shift to like make women go out and drink as much beer as possible, and they even called it ladette culture and all kinds of stuff. And even looking back, that was so strange, but it was just pushed on every TV program, every newspaper, and that was all pre-internet, so that was all messaging anyone got. Bizarre time.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's very obvious with the attack on femininity today, but a lot of it does circle back to the destruction of like the family unit, and a woman is like such a central focus, or is such a powerful cornerstone of a family unit, and they want to completely destroy all of that. So
it's weird because it's social justice is so freaking weird. They do this with race too. See, critical race theory is really racist towards everyone, but it's particularly racist towards Black people because it says that things like meritocracy and independent thought and showing up on time and all these things are parts of white culture. Like they're like, this is stuff that white people do. Having nuclear families. I forget that whole list that the Smithsonian Museum put out of whiteness. So they like denigrate Black people and people of color, but then they do the same with feminism. They denigrate femininity and women. And it's like, how insulting are you to women when you do this, when you make masculinity this, success is masculine or whatever, or being powerful. It's like, just anyway, it's a weird inversion, right?
Yeah, well, it's funny because it's a good it's an in joke. Like my family used to use all the time about colored people time because we always show up like 15 minutes late to things. I'm late to everything, and I get made fun of about it. And sometimes I get blamed for being Black, and other times it's just because I'm just not on time to things. But the idea though is that's an in joke, and so somebody outside making that in joke. Like, or making it a rule. Well, it's because white people are on time for everything that it's like, that'll get your ass kicked. Like, if you actually
not on time anywhere.
Well, like if you ran your mouth like that to actual like Black people and not like sharing it in schools, you just get beat up or made fun of. Like, because they'd be like, that's not your business whether or not I'm late to something, you know. But the concept of instead of shaming them for it, let's make it part of their culture and make it a part of like, the oppressive white culture around them. That's why they're late to things. It's like,
yeah, they're basically.
I'll have you know, I'm usually late to things, and I just say that it's me doing my part to shed my white privilege.
There you go.
There you go.
That's a good way to do it. Yeah,
yeah.
But
everything. That's the weird thing is that they're taking all these stereotypes and making that like a law for a race or whatever else, and it's freaking weird. It's so.
I don't know. I think anybody can be late or early or anything. That's just.
Well, I'm just late to things, and it's a bad thing I have. And I've been shamed for it, but I have no shame about it anymore. So like people are just like, "You're late," and I'm like, "Yeah, I know."
I just call it mic time.
No, it's not good. I'm not saying it's good.
In Tanzania, they call it African time.
Yeah.
They're like, it'll start at 5 o'clock or African time. So like
the only
7.
person I'm not late for is Disparu because I was late one time and I'll never do it again.
My issue wasn't because you were late. My issue because you were on another stream and you didn't give a crap about it. It was the disrespect of being on another stream. So it's not like you were busy or couldn't make it. It was that you chose to be somewhere else.
But now I will never be. I'll never be late on the stream again. If I know Disparu's waiting, I'm out of there. I'm like, I gotta go now.
Yeah.
And it works.
That's what I mean, though. Shame works.
It does work.
Yeah.
Shame and humiliation.
Yeah, just the way Josiah does it, he just goes, "Oh, it's fine. Oh, it's okay, buddy." And I'm like, "Wow, I feel terrible now that I'm running late." Yeah.
A lot of the thing with the Smithsonian was it was an attempt to frame the argument in American culture, because Sargon had the best take on it, that when they were talking about sort of whiteness and the list of things, if you go down that list and think, well, what culture does it come from? It couldn't be France, it couldn't be Germany. What they meant was British Protestant culture, so when they say that American is based in whiteness, they mean based in British Protestant culture, which is true. So all of those values came across, and it's simply redefining a certain thing into sort of now the American paradigm, which would be race, because that's the pressure point that they think they can use.
But they did. They did. But they.
100%. Yeah.
I don't know if I buy that because they didn't have tea drinking on there.
Well, as someone that's not a particular fan of tea, largely because I'm too lazy to make it, whereas coffee can just push a button.
This.
Yeah.
That's my favorite part. This brew, it's not even a principle. He's just like, I can press a button and get coffee.
Yeah. Oh no, if I had a tea making machine that would just press a button and make tea, I'd drink that as well. Like, I am that lazy.
But you said you won't microwave tea though?
That's disgusting, Phil.
You see how angry he gets.
No,
that was an abomination.
That was Drunk 3PO. I think that was talking about that. That was
I think I brought it up because I saw a TikTok and I'm like, do Americans microwave tea? This is an abomination.
Yeah,
it was so bad. I thought it was a joke.
I would never do that. Okay,
I'll microwave my water
and put the tea bag in as well.
See, I won't put the tea bag in there until after I microwave the water. But like, if I'm in a hurry, I'll microwave the water. You eat a tea bag in there.
But now you're putting the water in first. You'd need. I could understand it if you really had to boil the water in the microwave, but you would have to have a different cup that you poured the water into.
I've done that.
Like you couldn't just have boiling water and put a tea bag in.
I drink tea fairly often. I've got this honey on my desk because it's like my
that's for the tea.
Yeah. I'll just eat it too. I'll love honey by the spoonful.
It's like time to eat some honey. Yeah.
Huge erection. Thank you for the $10 super chat for Josiah's pedicure. Feel bad. I'm leaving Dallas 8 hours before the meetup at Gators. But cheers, guys and lady. Wear socks or shoes, Josiah.
No.
Thank you, Hugh. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I think Josiah just wanted to get on Wiki Feet. So that was like his aim of that entire thing.
Are you on a foot fetish site?
No,
he probably is now.
Probably at this point.
He has he does have Twitter.
I don't know why.
Twitter.
Okay. So the story behind this is Ben and I went down to Florida for like a Geeks and Gamers meetup. We shot a whole bunch of content for Geeks and Gamers and everything else. And I was like, oh, well, it's going to be Florida. It's going to be super hot. I'm not going to bring shoes. I'm just going to wear flip-flops. So I wore flip-flops down to Florida. Ben did too. And that's because we're freaking Michigander. Like, in the summertime here in Michigan, pretty much everyone just wears like flip-flops.
Like I've bare feet right now.
Oh, because you're so excited that it's warm.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
So when we went down to
Wikifeet.
Florida, everyone's like wearing like tennis shoes and socks all the time.
Like, what are you
Everyone's
doing?
like, ugh, you're barefoot? What are you doing? I was like, it's like almost 100 degrees out. What are you guys doing wearing socks right now? So
I was like, you guys are gonna hate me because like there was a time I drove Josiah and Ben to like Wisconsin. I literally threw on a t-shirt and shorts, no underwear, no socks. I didn't even put on shoes. I threw them in the van and was like, I might wear these if I have to. And they were like, wow, bro. And I was like,
yeah, there's like this weird thing, like, you know, in the wintertime, like, you know, you have to bundle up because it's
winter
cold
literally
here in
lasts
Michigan.
most of the year here.
Yeah, it's like 5 or 6 months here in Michigan.
Yeah.
And so when spring comes around, when summer comes around, like everyone's like, I kid you not, like as soon as the snow melts, it doesn't matter how cold it is, people will start wearing summer clothes around here in Michigan. Like people are just like that excited to be out of their winter clothes. So
you'll see people in 45, 50
UPS drivers. UPS drivers around here. I don't know what it is about you being a UPS driver, but they're in shorts all the time. It could be snowing, it would like sub-freezing temperature. You could have an ice storm. No, shorts all the time, with no door on the side of the van.
Yeah, right. Yeah, wow. That's
Here we're just so excited to see the snow gone that if it's 45 or 50 degrees, shorts are on.
Yeah,
you know, no socks. Anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So bare feet, like that's so normal to me, but I didn't like it's funny because like I was born and raised in Michigan. And so every time I've been elsewhere and seen people that are like weirded out by you having bare feet all the time, I'm like, I don't know. So I don't see what's weird
you live
about
in
that.
Florida, it's hot all the time. What is your deal?
Like, why not?
Yeah. Cooking with Ruthie, thank you for the $5 super chat. My family doesn't like that I voted for Donald Trump. They are leftists. I'm the only Republican. LOL. I don't care. So yeah. I mean, you know, that's awesome that you are standing up for what you want to believe in, and that's great.
Yeah.
So
and you're hanging out with us, and we appreciate that.
Yeah, Ruthie's awesome, and I appreciate everything that she does for moderating the chat and everything. So let's see here. Matt Decker, thank you for the $5 super chat. We're getting louder and louder and louder, and they hate it. That is very, very true. Very true.
Very loud.
And that's why they're taking it to the next level where they're trying to censor you, find ways to silence you. I mean, we saw that happening very recently with the whole Johnny Depp thing, where you have all these YouTubers that are, I guess not pro Johnny Depp necessarily, but anti Amber Heard in a lot of cases. And, then you have like the media that, the amount of views that they're getting compared to like people like Nick Rekieta on YouTube.
Yeah.
Like it's like a drop in a bucket compared to what Nick Rekieta was getting. And so then they get super mad about that because their voices are not the powerful voices that are, the authoritative voices on things like this situation. So then they get mad and they're like, oh, well, we should, shut down YouTubers for, being able to talk about things to like Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard. And so that's exactly what we're continuing to see happening in the culture right now from all these different establishments and everything else. So you are completely right about that, Matt.
It makes me wonder, because she had a British court case and no cameras allowed in our courtrooms at all. They can't even take photographs. We still have people whose job it is to draw sketches of a courtroom just so the news has something to show. And it does make me wonder if there was television cameras and it was broadcast like it was over there, whether that would affect various different decisions.
So I got to go ahead. I was just going to say I got to interview Nick Rekieta about this, and I asked him that question. Like, what is the influence of whether you have the cameras in the courtroom or not? Like, what do you think it is as someone who doesn't have it?
I think they get away with a lot of stuff, and I think the judges can be far more biased than they would be under public scrutiny.
I think it's good that we have them.
Yes, I think transparency is good for everything. I think, what is it? Sunlight is the best disinfectant. The more people know about things, and the more free access there is to information, the better.
Yeah,
I'm sorry I keep cutting off, but I have one follow-up. What about, because I don't know what I think about this yet. What about the people who say, well, the jury was influenced by, and I think, by the way, I think Amber Heard is a narcissist, and I thought the trial was very cathartic for me to see a narcissist get put in her place.
Yeah.
But there were people who said it wasn't fair because the jury was going home every night and the public was being swayed by all these YouTubers. And so these jurors were, with their spouses or whoever, they were like influenced. Do you think there's any merit to that?
They would only be influenced by essentially public opinion, which is watching the exact same thing they were. So it's not like new information or anything would be there. I think they'd be more likely to be influenced by people standing outside the courtroom as they're driving in. I think that's kind of more threatening. The idea that like your name could get outed, your address could get outed. I think that's far more impactful than just hearing other people's opinions, because you can decide whether you agree with those opinions or not.
Well, that's the thing,
I'd be more concerned about other things.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point too, Disbrew, is like the argument that was made is like, well, they could be influenced by all these YouTubers and stuff, not realizing that all these YouTubers are doing is watching the same trial. They're sitting in the same position, but the fact is, like, if the trial wasn't being publicized, you couldn't watch it. They could put whatever spin on the narrative that they wanted, and they could tell everybody, one thing that is, one way or another. And then if it doesn't go the way that they want, then they can say, see, the jury was biased, or there was probably some ongoings that were unsavory, or blah, blah, blah. They're talking about this is like a win for misogyny and stuff, ignoring that the judge is a woman, ignoring female lawyers, Johnny Depp's female lawyer. I don't remember her name off the top of my head, that just like
his lawyers.
Camille Vasquez.
Yeah, Camille Vasquez. Yeah, who just eviscerated Amber Heard and stuff.
Yeah,
she's an extremely good lawyer.
Yeah, but and
that's kind of the the difference on that is that, like, there's going to be some sort of authoritative influence on what the general public is going to believe, and is it going to be like a transparent one where the public gets to decide what's going on, or is it going to be the establishment or whatever else? So
well, and the other thing is, the like Disbrew said, and I do agree with that, like, the idea even like here that our cops have body cams, the reason that they got there to that point, I think, was not good, because I think the idea that the only narrative that cops only shoot Black Americans or whatever isn't right. But the fact is that, like, you have an authority that is there, yes, to protect and serve, but also to enforce. It isn't, they're not only there just to protect and serve, they're there to enforce laws and things, to have them have accountability of, like, I have a camera because one, if something happens to me, I have protection, but also if I'm not doing my job, the people have protection, because guess what? You're armed. Like, you have a weapon that is lethal to anybody that you discharge it against and stuff. So it does make a difference, because it makes you act differently, knowing that you're going to be held to scrutiny because somebody's looking at your stuff. And if you were, if you're a judge going like, hey, I can get away with things because nobody's watching or nobody will know, or I can even influence the media, then why would you do your best?
Right. That's a really old idea as well, because the idea is that morality is what you'll do when no one's watching. But the idea, especially from like Christianity and stuff, is that God would always be watching and would always be judging you, and so that would give you a reason to act good even when you're on your own.
Yes.
And so if one thing's gone, you generally have to replace it with something else. And I don't think there's any reason not to have cameras running all the time on police.
Yeah.
I know
with
the quartering recently, it's like they didn't have body cams on. I'm like, well, they should have done.
Yeah.
Like, you were in a major event.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Yep.
Pirate Tomsky, thank you once again for another 10-pound super chat. The other thing to remember is these people are not the majority. Most people hate this crap. The normies are waking up. We need to be the leaders who take the stand and fight back. Yeah. And I agree that for the most part, I think that the really crazy people are kind of the minority, but unfortunately the entire establishment has bought into their ideology as well, and they are perpetrating it, and that's definitely not helping at all. So
they're the minority, but they hold a lot of power right now.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah, still say that. You
What's
get
that?
people in HR. It's HR departments. HR departments. The people who generally staff HR departments are also the people most likely to go along with this kind of stuff. And if you believe that everyone else is evil, then you will employ people who agree with you, and then from there you can get through the entire company.
Yep.
And you can employ people into those positions which matter.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Exactly.
Well, it's funny because there's this like it as like a total side. It's like a parody on that idea, but there's a sketch on YouTube. It's called Terry Tate Office Linebacker. It's about this office that hired a like professional football linebacker to like enforce the rules in the office. So like if somebody's like not taking out the trash, he like tackles them, and like so he's just like wreaking havoc on the office. And one day somebody hires they hire an HR person to like shape things up, and she tells him like, you can't tackle people because they don't have you didn't get their consent to be tackled. So that he's like later he's standing there and he holds up like a sheet of paper and he goes, do I have consent to inflict bodily harm on you? And the guy goes, no. And then the office like descends into chaos because they know that they can get away with whatever they want. And then the episode ends with like the HR lady sexually harassing like a guy in the office that has a mustache. She has a thing for mustaches, and then he just starts tackling everybody in the office again because he's like, cool, if you're gonna act like this, then I don't have to be beholden to you. But the concept is the same of like, cool, if we know that we can get away with stuff behind the scenes because nobody's gonna hold us accountable, then like
yeah, exactly. So we have some Rings of Power stuff to talk about. Before we do that, I think right now would be a good time to kind of talk a little bit about our the Epic Verse podcast that we have, because we have something pretty exciting to show you guys tonight that we've been working on for a while. The Epic Verse podcast is going to be coming back, and it's going to be coming back next week. And it's a podcast that Mike, Ben, and I do where we talk about all sorts of crazy stuff when it comes to like aliens, paranormal activity, hollow earth theories. We cover all of it. We talk about everything. So,
and to preface too, like we don't talk about politics. We literally just talk about like our world and curiosity for the world around us. And that's like, I think an important thing for that too, is like, that's something we want to focus on a lot and just make people think outside the box about the world around them. And
we also talk about penis museums. So
we have talked about that, and penis rockets. So
penis rockets.
So we kind of go all over the place with this podcast. And tonight we have the brand new intro that we have created for the Epic Verse podcast. So we're going to go ahead and show that to you guys right now. Let's go and pull it up.
Welcome to the Epic Verse Podcast, where curiosities and theories run wild about the strange and spectacular and everything in between. And now, your hosts, JosiahRises, Benjamin, and Epic Mike.
That was awesome.
So that is our brand new intro for the Epic Verse podcast, and like I said, we're going to be coming back next week with episodes. We're actually going to be releasing 2 episodes a week for the Epic Verse podcast. So I just dropped a link to the YouTube channel for that. We're also on all of your favorite audio podcast platforms as well. So make sure that you go check it out. We have tons of episodes already that we had from my before my dark days of no internet and Mike's murdering me. We do have a bunch of episodes out before that, so you can go check that out if you want to. But we will be starting that back up next week as well. So
that's
I'm
true.
Very, very excited about that.
Yeah,
so
I would encourage you guys to check out some of the old episodes, because there are definitely lots of references that we make to a lot of different things in some of this newer stuff from our older work, and they're all really fun. So.
Yeah.
There's BM episodes before murder episodes, and then there's AR episodes after Rises episodes.
That's right.
Yes, that's the timeline.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited for that. I'm very proud of the podcast and everything that we've been able to do with it, and we have a lot of plans for that, and it's just going to continue to get more epic as time goes. So I'm really excited about that.
Huh?
So let's go ahead and move into something that's not as epic, which is the Rings of Power stuff that's been coming out over this past week.
Josiah, I don't know how you can say that. They spent $1 billion on this show.
Oh yeah,
it's gotta be epic.
Well, yeah, I mean, and all of the shows love it, so
there's no way you spend that much money on something.
How can it not be awesome? I mean, you have Celebrimbor looking like a grandma from Star Trek, so what's not to love about that, right?
Those money sums as well are really interesting because it was filmed in New Zealand. Now it's moving over to the UK. They're building like a ridiculously sized studio. It's not even built yet. It's going to take months for it to even get started. I don't know how they're going to do it. But all that money, on the buildings and everything, will come out of that budget, and that's got to go 5 seasons. This is why I think sometimes when you're like, what happens? Like you watch something and it's like Halo. Like, where on earth did the money go? It's like, well, if they built an entire studio, there's millions gone out of the budget already, and it all gets counted. And the cost of they had to fire. I think they've fired the staff from New Zealand largely, and they're getting new ones over here. All that's going to be cost in admin and everything else, and so a lot of stuff doesn't go into the show that. And they actually say in the article, it's they said, it's the most expensive show ever, and even they're like, well, actually, that is for the entire series, the 465 million. So it sounds good, but it's 5 series really. It's sort of. What is it? 3 times the length of a Marvel movie in each one, but it's only got the budget of one of them, so they're already setting standards of where people should think it is.
Wait,
that's not a good sign.
So is that $1 billion? Is that the entire show for as long as it goes on?
It's 5 seasons plus the cost to buy the IP.
Okay.
It came to about 465 million for the 5 seasons.
Maybe I'm just stupid. I thought that was $1 billion for 1 season, and I was like, that is an absurd amount of money to spend on a season of television. But okay, so it's for all 5 seasons that they've that's their budget.
I think it's even higher than just $1 billion. Too.
$1 billion. I don't think it's $2 billion, but it's probably.
Well, they didn't count.
They give the number in the article if I can find it.
Okay. Yeah. And that's including the studio they're building?
Wow, is it weird to have to read a magazine again, Disparu?
Because it's built for this, yeah.
Yeah, you're just like...
This is the thing. If I've been looking down during at any point during this, I'm actually reading the... Yeah. I wasn't just like falling asleep.
That's crazy.
This is why, I could just control F an article, but I can't on this. It's like...
Yeah, right.
It's horrible.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's been a whole lot of insanity over this past week about Rings of Power that they've been coming out with. Like some of the pictures that we've gotten about some of the characters, things like that. Like Celebrimbor looks absolutely horrific. Let me go ahead and pull up a picture of that real quick here. And there's something that I kind of wanted to talk about that. So here you go. So this is supposed to be Celebrimbor for Rings of Power, and for those who don't know who Celebrimbor is, he is like the one behind the forging of the Rings of Power, and a lot of obviously Sauron was the one who was ultimately behind it, but this guy was literally the one who forged the Rings of Power, and he is one of the most important characters when it comes to the legendarium of where we end up with in Lord of the Rings. He is supposed to be like this insanely powerful elf character, and that's what they make him look like. And it's just
have you seen the custom artwork for Celebrimbor? Like
this might be a little bit more of a hot take. I'm coming at you.
God.
I am
ready to take Ben off this show right now.
I don't necessarily think that the look defines the character.
Oh my God.
I think that people, I'm not sitting here telling you that they're going to write this character well, but if a character is good enough, their look doesn't have to be amazing for them to be a well-written character. That's all I'm saying. So I'm saying that he could look like this and be like an incredible character.
Let me get a sec, Josiah. Share my screen, please.
Yep.
So
the link I added in this private chat as well is all the.
This is from Shadows of Mordor, but this is like the concept art that they drove for Celebrimbor based on what they knew about him.
Yep. Yeah.
And here's the thing, Ben. I get where you're coming from, but tell me that the elf just alone, it's the elvish clothing, how like the artwork behind it and everything. Tell me that guy looks like he's an elf.
Can I see the picture again? Does he have pointed ears?
You can barely.
He does, but you can barely tell.
Okay, as long as he's got pointed ears, I know he's an elf.
But you didn't know he was an elf because you had to ask.
Yeah.
No, I asked if he had pointed ears.
Look, where is pointed ears, Ben? Can you see them?
You can
if you
kind of
zoom
see
in
it,
really
and,
tight,
it's really dark.
It looks like he has just really big ass ears.
All I'm saying is, I just consider me playing devil's advocate a little bit here.
Okay, let me ask
I've
it
got
this
the numbers
way,
as
right?
well.
Let me ask. Okay, what are the numbers, Disprue?
The numbers are 250 million for the rights and 462 million to create the rest, and then it says minus a large tax rebate. So I imagine that's a bit more from tax.
Okay, see, here is where you're wrong, Ben, because looks do matter when it comes to characters. Because, you know, if you made Darth Vader in a pink polka dot suit, would that be as intimidating as him in his, you know, black garb with his, you know, scary looking helmet and everything else?
No.
Yeah. So that's exactly the same here with Celebrimbor. This is not what Celebrimbor.
But is Celebrimbor supposed to be scary, or Sauron supposed to be scary?
Yeah, but he's not supposed to be scary.
I'm not. That's not the point I'm trying to make here.
Well, you use the big bad of Star Wars. You might as well use the big bad of Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
No,
if Darth
because
Vader's in a pink suit, is it Star Wars?
I mean, if it's the character of Darth Vader,
is it Star Wars, Ben?
I'm not talking about. I'm not talking about Sauron. I'm talking about Celebrimbor right now because the same thing applies to Celebrimbor as it does to any other character. The reason that this is not what Celebrimbor should look like is because this doesn't scream powerful. This doesn't scream, you know, majestic. It doesn't scream any of that type of stuff. This literally looks like someone who stepped off of a Star Trek set. That's not supposed to be insulting to Star Trek. That just goes to show that they have no idea what the fuck they're doing when it comes to Lord of the Rings.
You made Josiah swear, Ben.
That's my favorite. But once
looks
again,
do matter. Okay.
I'm not saying that all looks don't matter. I'm saying that in terms of this guy right here, to me, it looks like he's just in a robe with like a belt or something.
A dress.
He's wearing a robe.
He's wearing a dress.
He looks like a pussy.
Mm-hmm. The best Photoshop I've seen was from Game of Thrones, and she was like the old woman who was the head of the island. I can't remember what I forget the characters' names.
Which island?
Dawn, is it?
Oh, you mean where the Greyjoys are from?
No, I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
either way, her head on that body looked perfect. That it looked more like it fit than he did.
Okay, yeah. I don't love the look. That's my personal opinion for it. I'm literally just trying to play devil's advocate here. I'm saying that is in terms of this look, with the way he looks right now, if he was dressed in like a green robe or whatever you want to call it, it's not a pink polka dot outfit. That's the truth of the matter.
It might as well be.
Well, no, if he's dressed in this green robe.
But you said that looks don't necessarily matter, and that is completely
when it's something like this. I'm saying if it's as drastic as like a pink polka dot suit for an intimidating villain, that's different than what this is.
So now what happens if you do what you've done to him to every single character? Is it the same universe? You've changed the entire aesthetic look of the entire universe.
I mean, they're basically
done it a little way, but now you've changed everything.
Pull up the Harfoots. Harfoots.
All right, Keri, I saw that you wanted to say something. Go ahead and say that while I pull up the Harfoots here.
Oh, I was just wondering. You said as long as he has pointy ears, he's like elf enough for you.
He is an elf, yeah. Maybe if he's tall. But you know,
that's the only qualification that you need.
Hey, it's better than the atrocious.
You know who else have pointy ears?
Okay, fairies also have pointy ears,
and I would never want to see them in Lord of the Rings.
But once again, elves are very different. There's a whole different spectrum of elves. You know, there's Lord of the Rings elves. There's
Okay, all right.
We're on a spectrum now.
But
there's Spock.
But that being said, like once again, if you're asking my personal opinion on how this person looks in the show, I don't love it. But if the character was well written, that would be something that I could get past.
Would it be Lord of the Rings?
Exactly.
No, the character's never been put on screen before, so I guess yes or it doesn't.
Is that an
really
argument
matter.
that it is Lord of the Rings or not Lord of the Rings?
I would say that it is, as long as the character's done justice in terms of the writing. But I don't think that's going to be the case.
Done justice to what?
Why don't you think that's going to be the case?
Because I don't think that anything's going to be done justice, really. But that's just, like I said, that's just my outside opinion. I also have not seen the show, so I don't know. But
I'm waiting till season 3 because that's when.
That's right. Disper, I'm going to come up to you, and if you start, trashing it in season 1, I'm going to be like, Disper, you got to wait till season 3.
I'm waiting till someone does take me seriously on that. I'm sure I'll get some.
By the way, I do want to point out too, also, just the side thing, Celebrimbor is a character in the Shadow of Mordor series,
like video game series.
Yeah,
I didn't play those.
Yeah, but Celebrimbor is actually done very well. For the most part in those games.
And that's a video game series that is a story that Tolkien didn't write.
But yeah, I think that's a fan, not a fan project. It's a who's that made by? What video game developer?
I don't remember what the name of it
is.
Is it Monolith?
I've never even heard of them.
Monolith is actually, but those games are pretty well received. But the fact is, there were honoring of the source material.
Yes,
and they didn't. Even when they address things that should be breaking canon, they address the fact that they're like, well, we're not trying.
But they also never said it was canon.
No,
right?
But the fact is, they're respectful of the source material.
Okay, so these are these are supposed to be the Hobbit's ancestors.
Right okay, here. Now this one, no, okay, I'm not going to come with a super hot take here, but at the same point, I am not as well versed in like old Lord of the Rings lore and stuff. Like I've read the Silmarillion one time, and then I read the Lord of the Rings series. Yeah. So I don't personally know what the Hobbit's ancestors are supposed to look like.
Do you want to know who else doesn't know? Well, literally everybody. The word Harfoot was said 8 times during his entire text.
When I saw this, I immediately thought of Midsummer.
You know what I thought of, Ben?
That's where my mind went.
You know what I thought of, Ben? What does he look like, Ben? Look at his clothes. He's not wearing shoes. The background looks like a bayou in Louisiana. What does he look like, Ben?
I don't know.
He looks like the guy looks like a slave. He looks like an escaped slave from the 1800s.
You can't really see it in this.
He's
picture,
wearing grass on his head.
No. It's even worse. He actually has a chain around his neck, which is like.
You can't make this shit up. He looks like a slave. He's wearing dirty robes and he's barefoot. And they're like, you know what?
I would say wear
the one outfit. You shouldn't put the black character in if you're trying to make it seem like he's a strong character.
I would say I have more problems with that image than I do with Celebrimbor.
You absolutely should. He lives in it looks like a bayou in Louisiana. That's the thing. It looks like a swamp setting in the South. And you have a guy in dirty robes that's barefoot and he's black and he's wearing.
Do you want to know what he said about it though?
The actor?
His comment's amazing, right? If you can't see it, you can't be it. Finally, in this show, kids are going to see people of color taking up space in the center of a fantasy series. We're very visible in the world, and that's very exciting. He didn't say acting. He didn't say quality talent. He didn't say showcase anything about him personally. Taking up space, just existing and moving air is the only thing that he thought was good about the actual work he was doing.
When you say taking up space, it just sounds like
he said it, not me.
Yeah, right. No, not you. I meant like him. It sounds like.
Oh my god!
Okay.
No!
Look at what he's wearing right here around his neck. It's literally like a chain.
He's wearing a chain around his neck.
And also, the best quote from the showrunners in the entire thing is, this show attempts to surpass all TV that's gone before it. The Rings of Power is not television, says Bayona, as serious as Aragorn charging the Black Gate. It's a new form we're creating here. The sheer arrogance. We're not even making TV.
Is that J.A. Bayona?
Yeah. By the way, Josiah, can you please send me that photo? I need to send that to I gotta show that to my wife.
I guess what I would say here is
I didn't see the chain.
Yeah.
He looks like a slave, Ben!
I'm not even disagreeing with that, Mike.
Then there's nothing to talk about. He looks like a slave.
Mike, looks don't matter, okay?
Looks don't matter.
As long as he's barefoot and has hairy feet.
He can have all the chains he wants, Mike.
And pointy ears if he's an elf.
Well, the hobbits, don't the hobbits have pointy ears though?
He looks
That
like
was something
Uncle
that was given
Ruckus.
to them in the movies. I don't believe it's ever been addressed that they actually have.
It wasn't
ears
mentioned in the book, right?
Books, but yeah.
But it was given to the movies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's what I thought. I was like, I know I've seen hobbits with pointy ears, so maybe okay.
Yeah.
So it's in the books. Got it. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well, are those the only images they released? They didn't release.
No,
more?
they did release more, but those were like the two the worst
controversial
ones.
ones.
You did have man spreading Galadriel as well.
I didn't really care about that one.
The link in the private chat, if you scroll down past the text, has all the images from the.
Okay.
I think, for example, like one of my biggest problems with the show before it comes out, obviously, like I said, I haven't seen it, but my biggest problem with it before it comes out is that if all of this was not based off of Lord of the Rings, I think I might be more excited about it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. You know,
that's literally what everyone is saying.
That's what everybody's saying.
Like I do think that like it looks like really interesting fantasy, but it doesn't look like Lord of the Rings to me, and it's very similar to how I felt about The Hobbit. There's a really good Hobbit movie amidst all three of those movies. You just have to cut out like 65% of the other stuff. Yeah, like you know, and someone actually made an edit online. I can't remember who it was, but it's like 3 hours long, and it's actually really good. It feels like an adaptation of The Hobbit, but like this to me, I feel like if it wasn't Lord of the Rings, this would be something that I think would be really cool, but like as just an original fantasy property. But because it's Lord of the Rings, I feel like I'm looking at it from that perspective, and so I'm like, this isn't something I can get excited about because it's like it just seems so different from the universe in general.
I mean, and you just hit the nail on the head because that is exactly what the Tolkien fans are not happy about, because this has nothing to do with honoring Tolkien. This has nothing to do with, being respectful to his legacy.
Like if that wasn't Elrond right there, I wouldn't care. But because that's Elrond and I know Elrond from Lord of the Rings, I'm like, that's not Elrond.
Yes, and once again, this is another example of why looks matter, because Elrond isn't supposed to be, what do they call him, like an architect or something like that?
In this they've made him a politician. Yeah, they made him a politician.
That's not who Elrond is in the Silmarillion.
This looks like a crappy 80s movie shot.
Oh my god.
This looks like it's from a crappy 80s film.
It's so bad.
Looks like it's from like Willow or something.
Yeah. Where's her beard?
Yeah.
And the thing is, the showrunners, they clearly took on board what people said about the trilogy and what he said that he was honoring Tolkien, because they pay lip service to it. The pressure would drive us insane if we didn't feel like there was a story here that didn't come from us. It comes from a bigger place. It came from Tolkien, and we're just the stewards of it. We trust those ideas so deeply because they're not ours. We're custodians at best. And then in another bit, they say, it was like Tolkien put some stars in the sky that let us make out the constellations in this letter. Gosh. He says, left scope for other minds to work on his work. And it's like, yeah, but if you go on in other letters, he says about how he hates fan fiction because everyone ruins his work. So,
yes, exactly.
And what you've got is words paying lip service to, this is Tolkien, and then you just look at what they've made. You're like, it's nothing like what he wrote.
This is not Galadriel. I'm sorry. This is not.
They actually say that.
Galadriel.
They say this is a different Galadriel than you know.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like if even if this was like fan fiction of Lord of the Rings, I would come at it from a different place. But
it is fan fiction.
We're right. It is basically fan fiction.
But the problem is
they're not calling it fan
usually
fiction.
Fan fiction actually gives a shit about the lore.
Right.
They actually want
fiction.
to honor Tolkien. That's not what they're doing here. Like, this is not fan fiction that is respectful to Tolkien whatsoever.
No.
There was a great fan film for Wheel of Time that went around during that show, and all it did was literally take the script from the book and just say the lines, and it was amazing. It was way better than the show, and it was made on.
But the problem with this though is they don't have an actual book or a bunch of source material that they're working from. So
they shouldn't have been doing it.
That should not be an excuse for why they should be completely straying from anything when it comes to.
Well, Tolkien. I mean, if you don't have source material, then that's probably your first problem.
That was
Maybe
a choice they made.
Show.
they say we weren't interested in a sequel or a prequel or a rehash or nostalgia. It had to stand on its own 2 feet as something that felt faithful.
So in other words,
own thing.
Don't make the show if you don't have the source material to follow.
Yes.
Yeah. That's kind of what I'm looking at it like. Is just don't make it then.
Yes,
but they had the source material for Wheel of Time, and they threw it out the window and burnt it and wrote their own thing.
See, that's different.
That's an excuse. Not
with Wheel of Time, they had no reason not to faithfully adapt the source material because they had source material. With this, they just should have never made it because they didn't have the source material to begin with.
Yeah.
So
Keri's been very quiet through all of this. Keri, what are your thoughts?
Well, I just saw a giant bug.
Understandable. That would take everybody's focus away.
I am now living in this new old haunted house that nobody's lived in for 30 years. And we're in the middle of renovating it, and
that's awesome.
I've never seen a bug that large before. Anyway, I'll be right back.
You're good.
Wow.
All right.
I actually thought she meant like one of the pictures from Lord of the Rings, because I think there's like a giant spider in one of them.
Yeah,
I didn't realize it was like in real life.
Oh man, this is
bad.
It's
wild.
It's horrendous. I actually want to. This is something that was written by a friend of Keri's that I wanted to read out.
I read this. I think Mike posted it on Facebook, right?
Keri shared it, and I shared it with her.
Yeah. So this is something that's just really, really good. Let me see if I can find it here.
If you need me to, I can pull it up. I have it on my Facebook.
This is my friend with the prancing pony.
Yes. Yep. All right, I got it right here.
So this friend, he and his wife are amazing. They do all the Sherwood Forest fairs. They make their own costumes.
They probably got all sorts of Renaissance fairs.
That's
too,
him.
Right?
That's him. And they built a whole prancing pony tavern in their house.
Yeah.
And have people over for great conversation and stuff.
That's
anyway.
really, really cool. I love that.
Yeah.
I remember when you first shared like some pictures of his prancing pony, and I was like, that is so awesome. I mean, and this costume looks better than a lot of the costumes that are on the Rings of Power show too, which is funny. But so this is something that he said that I thought was really good. I think most people know I'm a bit obsessed with the worlds and works of J.R.R. Tolkien. I dress like Aragorn half the time, and I have the prancing pony attached to my house. So it's natural that people who know me would ask if I plan to watch Amazon's new series. I would consider myself, at the very least, an enthusiast when it comes to these books and the world Tolkien crafted throughout his lifetime. I think most people would expect me to be excited about this new TV adaptation, and at first I was, which, speaks for a lot of fans. When they first announced that this series was going to be a thing, Tolkien fans were, excited. People were like, oh, this could be something cool. We, fans obviously want to see more Tolkien out there in the world. So, fans were excited when it was first announced. However, I won't be watching this show. In fact, I would go so far as to say it could be a really great show and I still wouldn't watch it. Why? Allow me to explain. This adaptation isn't actually based on Tolkien's works or his world. Amazon looked at the Lord of the Rings appendices for their source material, but they appeared to be about as related to Tolkien as D&D or World of Warcraft. The show itself intends to tell its own more modern story with a more modern approach to characters, but will also use the names and places established in Tolkien's lore. It's a sort of bait and switch tactic by the creators to get views. I can say something like it's not based on canon, but that's overstating the issue. It's not just not based on canon. This isn't even the same universe. Despite using familiar names and places, it's a totally different place. It has totally different rules from the ones established in the books. It is therefore not recognizable as a Lord of the Rings adaptation or prequel. And I mean, he's completely correct about all of that. So it's understandable. And honestly, this is a problem that Amazon created for themselves, because for some reason they thought that Tolkien fans would just brainlessly get on board with what they're doing with Rings of Power. And that's absolutely not at all what's happening, as very clearly seen by the trailer when they released that and the amount of backlash they received for that. So so it's just going to be a complete disaster, and I'm not looking forward to anything when it comes to this show. I don't have any hopes for it whatsoever. So
you know what that
This
says to
Prancing
me
Pony
is,
House is amazing, by the way.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
you should show pictures. He's on Twitter now. I just sent you his handle also.
Okay. All right.
He
cool.
joined the tweeters after I put those pictures up. But he's like the target audience, right? Or part of it should be part of the target. He's a huge enthusiast. And what this tells me is, because I'm like a casual, I read the books when I was a kid and I've seen the movies, but I'm a casual fan. I'm not like him. And what it's telling me is that some of the casual fans will probably watch this, but the hardcore fans, the ones that you should be the most interested in, they're tuning. He's telling me I'm tuning out.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that says a lot.
Yeah. Let me see here. He has a.
I'm sure there's probably going to be a decent amount of casual fans that watch it and maybe even enjoy it. But I think like that's not the main group of like Tolkien purists or big time Tolkien fans are like the people you want, like you said, the people you really want to watch and engage with your show. Because they're going to give it the best word of mouth. They're going to be the most passionate about it. And if you don't have that passion behind it, like that's more depressing than anything else. Like I think like casual fans could watch it and enjoy it, but they're probably not going to tell a bunch of people to watch it. You know,
well,
like
it's the same thing that happened with Star Wars, where they continued to create these stories that weren't based in the EU or anything like that. They continued to tell stories that were kind of alienating more of the lore that we had previously about Star Wars, and they continued to try to bring in a new fan base into Star Wars that were these people that didn't really they were just like casual people that are there just to kind of support whatever they put out there. And that's kind of the same thing what they're doing with Lord of the Rings right now. So
I'm trying to think of an equivalent for me, and it would be if they did like a Golden Girls prequel and they did not have Rose like wasn't in St. Olaf, and Blanche wasn't a big old hoe. Like if that was like, if they had changed the characters so much that I would be pissed. And there might still be people watching it, but I'd be like, no. As a Golden Girls fan, I will not watch that crap. Like
absolutely, because that's the thing. It's we have a built-in audience to this, and most people will go, "Oh, I've heard of that. I'll check it out." But the hardcore fans are going, "I don't want this. This is nothing like what I loved before."
Yep, exactly.
And the issue with it is as well that the casual fans can do it. Yeah, but these things normally suck on their own. Even if you I watched Halo. I didn't know anything about Halo. It was still terrible television. But the reason was they didn't care about Halo. So they thought they could make something better than the original IP, and they always can't. And I think that's what you're going to end up
absolutely.
Not
but something like Halo,
that is the sign that they don't care about writing at all.
Yeah, 100%. And
well,
the one thing that we had the biggest example of that worked with adaptations, but Ripa has been very critical of it, is the MCU. But even with that, we can see now that they're getting through a lot of the storylines that they considered like popular or useful, because they really just cherry picked. They could have the MCU could have lasted a lot longer with really good storylines if they weren't constantly cherry picking what comic book storylines to adapt. And now that they've gotten to the end of it and they're gotten to like the new Avengers and the new Thor and all these other things, these characters don't have good stories around them. So the improvisation on their bad stories, it's obvious that the storytelling has failed. That it's subpar to what was before it, Yep.
So, yep. Yeah. Exactly.
Yep.
I mean, and it's just we're seeing this happening with pretty much every type of legacy story right now, where they're just completely destroying the old to replace it with a version of that story that's made in their image. And that's exactly what's happening with Lord of the Rings. It's happened with Star Wars, Halo. And you can just keep on going down the list on that. So,
yep, absolutely gorgeous.
One of the things it changes though as well is if people aren't paying attention, and then suddenly like your favorite show comes on TV and it's awful, you start looking for why. And if anything's going to start getting through to people, that's it. And I don't think these people, like the show producers and everything, They think they can just move on to the next IP and it's like starting from scratch. No, everyone you annoyed before will now be talking about your next show, and so it builds and builds.
Yep, exactly.
100%. Which, yeah.
Common Nerd, thank you for the $5 super chat. Didn't realize y'all were streaming tonight. Glad I caught you, even though I'm late. Love y'all, such an inspiration. Keep the good work. Better net still. Thank you so much, Common Nerd. Appreciate that a lot, man. Appreciate you.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I mean, I was gonna say, like, with the Lord of the Rings show, like I when it was first announced, I was pretty excited about it. I've never been as big of a I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Lord of the Rings, like the books and the movies, but besides that, I've never been as big of a reader or even follower of most of Tolkien's work like someone like Josiah has, and I know he's kind of been in that world for years of his life. But something that I've like when the show was first announced, I was excited about it, but like the more and more things that have come out about it, the less and less excited about it I've gotten. And like I'm to the point where I think I said this on a stream 3 or 4 weeks ago. I was like, it's worse because I'm like, I just don't care. And I said that's like the worst thing you can feel is apathy. And I hate being apathetic towards something. Like I really just, I'm to the point where I don't even, I don't have any like vehement hatred or anything. I just don't care. And I just don't, and I don't want to feel like that about something that I've enjoyed a product from before. And it was like, it's kind of with like the Halo TV show. I didn't end up watching that because I really like the books and I really like the games. And from what I understood, it was complete just disaster when it came to adapting those things. And I was like, you know what? I just won't watch it.
Didn't try. It was its own timeline. So
yeah. And I don't feel like I've missed, I don't feel like I've missed anything from not watching it. And I might get to the same point with Lord of the Rings. I don't know if I'll watch it. I might watch one episode and see how it is. I don't think I'm going to watch 3 seasons to see how it is. But
most shows don't get good till after 3 seasons.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You can't forget that. So I might watch one episode or whatever. But I just don't care. Like there's so many other things I'm excited about this year, and I wish I could say the Lord of the Rings TV show is one of them, but I just can't. Yeah. So it's like there's a ton of stuff I'm looking forward to, but that's not one of them. I just don't care. And like I said, as a fan of the Lord of the Rings, that feels like a really weird space to be in, where I just don't care. You know, it would be like if I don't care about Star Wars or something. You know, it's like that. It's like something you've grown up with or is really influential to you, and you just don't care about it.
Do you know what? That's what I'm that way about The Walking Dead now.
Yeah.
I used to read all the comics, and that was one series I really got into. And even though it it veered from the comics, I still enjoyed it. Actually, I got really into it around maybe the 4th or 5th season. And now,
the
like, I
could not give it. Went downhill.
Yeah, I don't care at all. I'm not watching.
Not only that, but then they started getting rid of characters that like the best characters in the show, and then they expected these characters that you don't care about to carry the whole thing. And I'm like, at that point, I just checked out. I think I checked out at like seasons 5 or 6 or something like that, and I was just like, I just don't care anymore.
Yeah,
you know. So I was starting to check out when a certain character dies in like one of the earlier seasons that I really love, but you know, it's not great, but I understand what you mean.
Which character? It's not a spoiler. It's been out forever.
It's when Glenn dies. Glenn is my favorite character in The Walking Dead. And so I really, when that happened, I was like, that's it. I was like,
he died really late.
But he does die in the comics. I get that. He does die in the comic books, but or the graphic novels or whatever you want to call them. But I just love his character so much.
He didn't die until like super late into the show, though.
Yeah, but it was so cheap. It was such a cheat.
Yeah,
because they did that. They did that thing where they ended the season where you weren't sure if he died or not, and then you find out later and he was pulled. No, they said no, he survived. He was pulled under the trash can.
Yeah.
And then they went ahead and killed him again.
That was so bad.
No, I'm talking about like his actual death, like when Negan kills him.
I love that. It was great.
I hate it.
Wasn't that like
holy
season
shit,
7
your eyeball popped out of your skull?
It wasn't that late, was it?
Yeah, it was like season 7 or 8 or something.
Maybe I checked out of that show a lot later than I thought. But
yeah.
Then the only other character I liked was Daryl. And so it wasn't worth watching the show just for Daryl. So.
I checked out after Shane died because Shane was like the best character.
Didn't Shane die in like season 2?
Season 1 or 2, yeah.
2, yeah.
2.
The first 2 seasons are absolutely the best of the Walking
first
Dead
2
show.
seasons of
The relationship between Rick and Shane was the heartbeat of that show, and they offed it in the second season. So
yeah. I think Glenn would say that Blue Seal is the heartbeat of cracked his skull right open. That was amazing.
Bill Galactica, thank you for the £3 super sticker. Appreciate that a lot, Bill.
But yes, as a fan of something, feeling apathetic towards something that you love or a product that you love is like, I think, one of the worst feelings.
Absolutely. Well, that's what's happening a lot with Star Wars. I think there's occasionally renewed breath when they do something more egregious than the last thing, but yeah, I mean, like if they make like season 2 of Halo, the show was so bad the first time around, there's not going to be nearly as many people watching it the second time. Like the people that'll come back and watch it the second time are the people that enjoy like kicking something when it's down or watching the aftermath of a train wreck.
You mean like Disparu?
Look, I'm British. I can't help it. If something's that bad, I find it funny. It's amazing.
He's like,
the
man,
worse something gets, the more I enjoy it.
Disparu's like, yes, I gotta come back for season 2.
No, like Marvel's coming out with a series, and I'm like that's why I didn't like Miss Marvel, because I'm like, that just looked boring. That's not a real big disaster. But if they came out with it was obviously like what is it? Gotham Knights. Oh, that's gonna be gold.
It looks so bad.
It's gonna be gold.
They killed Batman in the street in a suit.
I don't even know what that. I'm gonna be honest. I don't even know what that is.
It's like basically the kids of like the previous superheroes and villains, like the Joker's daughter and Batman's son Damian, and all this stuff. But
I love Damian. Are they gonna do him?
The show starts out with Batman just dying.
Oh.
Like they just straight like somebody murders Bruce Wayne in the street and they like staple a Batman helmet onto his face.
Oh my goodness.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't care about that.
And then like like one of the other characters is the Joker's daughter or something, supposedly. Yeah.
Interesting.
Good time. But none of them ever get in costume. It's just like a crappy like CW TV drama.
Yeah. And Disparu, if you ever want to enjoy Halo, like I don't know if you played the games or not, but if you ever want to enjoy the story, play those games. At least 1, 2, and 3. Are really good, and then some of the books are also really solid if that's something that you ever want to just enjoy instead of tear apart.
Yeah, the games, like they're always something I intend to get to. It's just like
they're a lot of fun.
The time.
And they revolution like that. The first Halo Combat Evolved was huge for first person shooters, so it's a good one.
Yeah. Well, that was a great show, and it was awesome having Keri on. We had some like the first half of the conversation was just fantastic, and that was amazing. So
I'm glad you liked it. I wanted to add, I had looked this up so I could tell you, Josiah.
Yeah.
If you ever give it another shot past season 2, season 4 was actually my favorite season of The Walking Dead.
I've watched every season of The Walking Dead.
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah. I thought that it stopped being good after the second season. So
season 4, what happened in season 4?
Season 4, I had to look up to see what episode this was in. It's when Carol got kicked out of the group. It's also when those men almost raped his son, and he viciously, Rick viciously like bit that guy's ear off.
Yeah, that was cool.
That was
actually
When does his wife die?
That's like 1 or 2.
3.
Okay,
I think 3.
Oh,
3.
Really?
I just remember
she died in the prison, so that was season.
That
3.
episode.
Okay.
That episode was like the saddest episode to me of that show. Pretty much. I hate any sort of things like that.
Keri, you were a great guest, by the way.
Yeah,
we're gonna have to have you back on.
I had an idea when at the beginning. I'll say real quick. So, Disparu, I wasn't familiar with you. I'm real excited to check out your channel. But when they were saying that your channel's growing and you're doing these videos about shows you like and don't like, has anyone done a channel? I think I want to start a new channel where I just do kind of what YouTubers do, where they review new shows, except I do really old shows like they're new. So I'm like, Mod episode 1. Who saw it?
There's a niche for that. Yeah.
Is there?
Like
I would say try it. Yeah, go for it. And
Hey,
I think there's a lot of people that are really kind of going back to a lot of older shows right now.
Really?
And
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
there might
Yeah,
there
because
might
I
be an
still think like
audience.
90s TV. I still go back and watch that because
I mean,
this
there's
is
no
the thing.
harm in
I
throwing
don't talk
stuff at
about
the
shows
wall.
that I like.
Okay.
Yep.
Or you're like, Perfect Strangers. Did you see it this week?
Right,
Like,
right,
Holy
exactly.
crap,
Yeah,
yes,
that would
what
be
happened?
that's actually a really good idea, Keri. You should definitely
Yeah.
do that.
Okay.
That's an awesome
like
idea.
a vintage TV review or something almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, your wall is perfect for it. It's like a
Yeah.
vintage wall, you know. It's like,
but talking about
Yeah.
it like it's relevant right
Yeah.
now. like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
And
that'd
there's
be
like
awesome.
4 people who watch it.
Uh huh. Well, yeah.
Well, yeah. No, I dig that. I think that's
Yeah.
actually a really fun idea.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man.
Yeah. So, Disbrew, what do you have going on besides making videos that are just blowing up like crazy?
Well, yeah, all my stuff at the moment is either
besides being a
ranting about Kenobi or ranting about
celebrity.
Rings of Power. So Rings of Power is next. I'm gonna cover the article and everything that's come out. The one thing that was interesting was Amazon's NDA dropped about what happened in London with the showrunners on Friday at 4 or 5 p.m. Like end of the work week in the UK. And I'm like, that's the time you bury news because all the journalists have gone home. They don't have time to write articles. It was just really weird how suddenly we're dropping information about that event just when no one's going to talk about it. So I suppose I'm going to have to go into that, even though I really don't want to.
Right.
The Empire magazine's going to be interesting.
Has anyone really talked about it?
No, not seen a single video about it.
That's insane. Interesting.
Or article.
They're waiting on you, Disbrew.
Yeah.
You have to lead the charge on this one.
Disbrew,
You have
you
to protect.
Well, it was all a lot more tempered than the original comments, which was very nice. And the first ones to release were all ones like, I've got a lot of concerns. So it was a particularly interesting order of events.
Sometimes, like, just as a thing, I think this is funny because, like, Disbrew liked, you liked Wheel of Time. You were actually excited for it. And then we're like, this is a train wreck. So, like, Disbrew is somebody that, like, saw the crack in the wall and was like, hey, there's a thing over here. And then, like, Lord of the Rings, we're all like, oh, man, we don't know about this one, But, like, Disbrew told me a while ago, he's like, I'm not a fan of Lord of the Rings. But he still was like, damn it. There's a thing over here too. So like he's literally like the guy that showed up and was like, I don't care about this, but like somebody's gotta say something. Like, look what they did to my
Those
stuff.
super fans, the super fan video, they were gold. And like the more you dug into that topic, the worse it got. The redoing scenes, filming it round, and the guy's stroking different ears in different parts of the video because they've made him repeat his lines. And like, this is supposed to be an authentic review, and you're just faking it for everything.
Yeah, they're like, stop.
That was
oh my god!
Once in a lifetime marketing disaster.
Yeah, the guy peeing in the corner, he's just like, I just don't got it, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just like trash fires and like, because there's always a thing when people are like, well, what is this traffic jam? And it's just like, oh, everyone's slowing down to look at a car crash. I like doing that with entertainment.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Mike, what do you have going on?
I mean, as always, you can check me out on Twitch, _epic_Mike. We're getting to the point now where I can't justify not having a YouTube channel, so that'll be something we'll have to deal with pretty soon here.
Yeah, better freaking get on that.
Yeah, I better freaking get on that. Also,
do the mod channel with me. I'm kidding.
There you go.
I will go back and review old shows. I got some really good old shows that I'm happy to. Yeah, you can always check me out there. Like Josiah said, we announced it already. The Epicverse podcast is coming back. I'll be on that. You can check that out twice a week. But yeah, I'm always around, and then I'm on Tuesday night's main event. Whenever I get back on there, we'll see what happens with that. I'm around. I'm always around doing something with somebody. So
Mike is always there.
Mike's
I'm
always
watching.
And Keri, what about you? What do you have going on?
Well, my channel's called Deprogrammed, and you should check it out. It's pretty new. Been around a few months, this new one. And Wednesday nights is my pop culture show. It's with my friend Mystery Chris, who you guys would really love. He's a big old nerd.
Yeah,
and he brings a lot of good topics. And then during the week, I do interviews with people. I'd love to talk to all of you guys sometime. I talk to people about woke ideology in whatever form they have interacted with it. So I talk to comedians, academics, just a variety of people, musicians, whoever.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great. Those are really fun conversations and stuff. So
yes,
yeah.
I loved your Jared Bauer episode. Yeah, I was like, Jared? What?
Jared's cool. I got to
Yeah.
talk to, like I said, most recently Alex Stein, and
Yes.
then I did get to talk to Nick Rekieta. That was a really interesting one.
Nice.
But yeah,
Nick is awesome. I love Nick. He's great.
Yeah.
And then B Pick Ben. What do you
Pick
have?
Ben?
Wow.
Bepic.
I don't know. What do I have going on?
Well, you're writing a book.
I'm here. Yeah, I am writing a book. I mean, I wrote the book. I'm just editing the book, which is the worst part of writing a book. But yeah, so I mean, I'm doing that, and then I have a YouTube channel. I'm still debating on what I want to put on there, but
you just got to put something on there.
It's
just
there.
whip it out.
Yep.
It's
Slap
there.
something on there.
Just throw it on the table and say, "Here it is."
Yep.
What do you think?
So that is the exact same. That YouTube channel name is the exact same as my name here. Be Epic Ben.
B Pick Ben.
B Pick Ben, as they all say. It's supposed to be Epic Ben, but nobody's gonna say that.
Yeah.
No.
The Common Nerd, thank you for the $5 super chat. You and the rest of the crew inspire me to join the fight. Thank you. Keep up the good work. I can't wait for the epic verse. I will review it. That's awesome. And I'm looking forward to that. And if you review it, we aren't going to call you racist and sexist if you don't like some of the stuff that we put out. So,
I mean,
Mike might.
Let's reserve that because, we don't know how bad his review is going to be. Like, whoa!
If he really likes the Harfoots, then Mike will be after him.
But thank you so much, Common Nerd. Appreciate that a lot. And yeah, Mike and I, we've been working on a lot of stuff for Epic Verse, and I'm excited to share with you guys what we have going on. So obviously, we're in the process of actually creating the content for Epic Verse. So it's gonna be a little bit longer before you actually start to see anything, but there's a reason for that. Obviously, we got to actually create the content for you guys to be able to see what's going on. So, but yeah, it's awesome. So very excited for that.
Yes.
So yeah, with that being said, thank you so much, everyone, for coming out tonight. We appreciate you all. Thank you so much for all of the super chats and everything else. You guys are awesome. Once again, we are here every Saturday night for the Epic Verse live show. So we'll hopefully catch you all next week as well. So thank you so much, everyone. Have a great rest of your week, and we will talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, guys.